It is 10 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. There was a trade in the NFL this morning as the New England Patriots are sending quarterback Joe Milton and a 7th-round pick to the Cowboys in exchange for the Cowboys' compensatory 5th-round pick. The former Vols quarterback enters his second season after playing in one game in his rookie year. He was 22 of 29 for 241 yards and 2 total touchdowns in the win over the Bills in the regular season finale for New England. The Nashville Predators are riding a 4-game losing skid. They will head to Dallas to take on the Stars tonight. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So I leave town for 5 days, and you all just let everything go straight to hell in a handbasket. Welcome back. Welcome in. We're happy to have you for the next 3 hours. 615-737-1045. Yes, I landed at about 5:30 yesterday evening from a delightful trip down to Palm Beach where the sun is shining and the waves are lapping upon the shore. The tornadoes everywhere, all at once, all over the place for basically the entire night. Hopefully everybody is safe and well out there. I know West Tennessee got the worst of it, it seems. They always do seem to. So thinking about our friends that direction. But Lucas is on crutches. Bert has a pair of headphones on there that look like he just got hit by a bomb. What happened to you two? What did you do while I was gone?
Told you we were going to wreck the car, cause a pileup. There was a little more carnage than we expected. I can barely walk.
Maybe less carnage metaphors on the heels of a tornado, please.
Well, thankfully, the Middle Tennessee area, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, that was crazy last night. I'm sure everybody was up in the same time frame that we were, that 2 to 4:30 a.m. sort of window where you're just watching storm after storm cycle through. Shout out to the guys at Nash Severe Weather.
Always.
A must follow in times like these. So thankful that, certain things that could have happened did not happen last night in Middle Tennessee. But you're right. There was a lot of devastation elsewhere in the state and around the Southeast. But in terms of the on-air product, yes, we were forced off the air. We ran it into the ground, but we made it work.
Well, as long as we can get things back on track, because it's draft month, baby.
Yeah.
It is officially Cam Ward month in the state of Tennessee, leading up to we are what, 3 weeks away? Exactly.
Exactly 3 weeks away.
3 weeks away, exactly. What happened to your ankle over there? What happened? I got a video. Ross tweeted out a video yesterday. By the way, we have to work on Ross's Twitter skills. Just terrible job by you, the way that you posted that. In all different ways, you need to be coached.
What do you mean?
I will walk you through how to make sure that people actually see, other than you not having any following to speak of, we need to make sure that you understand how to maximize your social media. Because that was a terrible
600
job.
plus followers.
No,
and counting.
And counting. Where can people follow you?
Ross Johnston, 2 N's at the end of it. Little plug.
There you go. We'll do a quick tutorial on how to get people to actually see your tweet and not just the select amount of people that follow only you and Buck seeing the tweet.
Unbelievable.
But I'm glad that not many people saw that tweet because I was crutching around. It's not a good look for me. I felt very vulnerable. I was playing men's league soccer on Tuesday night. I told the story yesterday. We don't have to rehash. But
no, I haven't heard the story. I would like to hear the story so I can point and laugh at
Long story short, I'm dribbling the ball down the left wing, and I'm trying to play a centering pass to the middle of the box where the great Tony Husband is making a run in front of goal.
Oh, no, you did this in front of professional soccer people?
Well, yes, Tony is a professional soccer commentator who comes out and plays with our team on Tuesday nights.
Watches athletes at the highest level and then is watching you lumber about on a soccer field.
I mean, we're all about on the same plane with this men's league team on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Anyway, somebody comes in to
Only
try
one person on crutches, as far as I can tell.
And hey, Tony's had his share of injuries as well. He has battled through them. He is a trooper, and hopefully I'll get back out on the field soon. Somebody tried to take me out, tried to take the ball from me. My cleat got caught in the turf, and my ankle folded under my leg, and I had a baseball on my ankle pretty much for the last couple days. It's a little bit better today. I'm limping around. I can at least put weight on it. But here's the thing that you wouldn't understand, okay? We have a lot of high-level athletes that work in this building, right? Blaine Bishop, Ramon Foster, myself, Ron Slay,
Bert.
Now Robert Walsh.
Robert is infinitely more athletic than you are.
Yes, Robert is sneaky athletic. But, everybody has their own arena. In the case of Ramon and Blaine, that was every NFL stadium in the country. In my case, it's Frederick Douglass Park in East Nashville on any given Tuesday if I'm not too tired and I decide to go. And I know you wouldn't get that, but the sacrifice, that risk is always there. It's always lingering, but we play through and we rest and recover and hopefully get back at it for my squad. They probably don't need me, but
they don't want you.
I'd like to get back out there soon.
They don't want you. You're a liability to yourself and everybody else out on that playing surface. The highlight of the video that Ross took. So we obviously are wheelchair accessible here at the Cumulus Nashville building. So
Absolutely.
There is a ramp that gets from the parking lot to the second floor where most of the studio space is, and Bert was walking behind Lucas as he crutched his way down said ramp yesterday. And the highlight of that was that you were carrying your own water bottle while Bert waddled behind you, just watching you try and struggle with the crutches and the water bottle at the same time. I'm just glad to know that the spirit of the show was kept in place even though I was not here, which is every man for himself.
Lucas told me as he was getting in my car when we went to lunch, I tried to help him get his crutches in the car, tried to help him get positioned, and he said, no. It's very important that I do this. So I wanted to make sure that he remained independent in his crippled state. There was no reason for me to take over his life. You know what I mean? He doesn't need that. Even though I did request a wheelchair this weekend for Joseph's wedding, I don't know if I'm going to be able to procure that, but I will be patrolling the Goodwills of the greater Nashville area to try to find a wheelchair for this weekend.
I'd love to wheel around the dance floor.
I would love it so much.
No, because he's just going to be running into people's shins and trying to do wheelies.
Running over toes.
All these different things. You're just going to be a huge inconvenience.
No, I'll shuffle around. A sprained ankle. Wheelchair's a little extreme for a sprained ankle. One day of crutches is all. I could use a walking boot, though, if any of you guys have one lying around.
Stop asking the audience for free things.
My foot barely could fit into my shoe this morning. It's very, very snug. It looks like somebody...
Do you have your feet up on the console in here?
Oh, Dawn's going to love that.
I keep it elevated.
He looks like, if you're watching on Zone TV, it looks like he couldn't be bothered.
Do you know that? You are absolutely pathetic.
Rice, rest, ice, compress, elevate. All right? I'm doing everything except ice, because I don't have any ice, and except rest, because I hate being in here with you. You're back. Nobody wants to see you.
That's all right. Too bad.
Jamal.
615-737-1045 is the number. F&M Bank Chat also at your disposal if you would like to live stream the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Do you want to talk about your beloved Joe Milton going from the New England Patriots to the Dallas Cowboys for a compensatory fifth, and a 7th-round pick? How the hell Joe Milton became worth a 5th-round pick based off one game is hilarious to me. Jerry, what are you doing, baby? You don't know who Micah Parsons' agent is, and you're giving up a 5th and a 7th for a quarterback who played one game in a game that the Bills wanted nothing to do with.
Nothing.
He looked amazing.
He was great.
He looked amazing.
So he's QB2 in Dallas, right? Cooper Rush is a Raven.
Oh, yeah.
Trey Lance is still there, but I don't think the Cowboys want any part of Trey Lance being the backup to Dak Prescott.
All the Tennessee backups in the world. Dobbs in New England, definitively QB2 behind Drake May, and now Joe Milton, Broadway Joe Milton in Dallas, where apparently he is very excited about because I guess his family is from the area.
Joe has I thought Joe was from Florida. He might have family in the area, but Joe's a guy that has been around. He's originally from Florida. He might have family in Dallas, though. I'm not sure. So, yeah, that's an interesting move. It's a compensatory pick, right? So, it's a pick that they were awarded, essentially. So maybe they think of it as house money. Let's go get us a high upside backup quarterback rather than take a gamble on a 5th-round offensive lineman, tight end, receiver, whatever. But Dak Prescott has had some health issues in the last couple of years. We'll see how quickly they need to turn to old Joe Milton chucking the ball 90 yards down a training camp in Dallas. I can't wait to watch Cowboys media be wowed by Joe Milton this year.
So Jordan Schultz about 30 minutes ago, new Cowboys quarterback Joe Milton tells me, quote, "My family grew up a Cowboys fan. My mom always had a Cowboys shirt on. She always talked about them. Living in Texas have been a long-time dream of mine, and now I'm with them. I'm ready to work."
Okay, so grew up in a Cowboys family.
Gotcha.
Not from the Dallas area. So
That's unfortunate.
good for Joe. What, you just don't like people that root for the Cowboys in other places in the world?
No, growing up a Cowboys fan must have been tough. That's what is unfortunate.
No, I think that he's what, 25, 26?
Yeah, 25.
So I
Yeah,
guess
he missed all the good stuff.
He missed all the good stuff,
Yeah.
but they've not been an atrocity. They just don't win anything of consequence, which is easy for you to say. How do you feel about John Harbaugh's contract extension? Because I was shocked by how many people were pissed about it.
Ravens fans are stupid. Ravens fans on Twitter are especially stupid. It made all the sense in the world. They're not going to let him go into a year without having an extension in place. This is what they've always done. They've always let it run out into the final year of his deal and then extend him, which makes a lot of sense because Steve Bisciotti, the guy who owns the Ravens, has more money than God in Maryland. So if they want to fire him, they'll just pay his buyout. It's no big deal.
I can't even begin to fathom being upset about ensuring that John Harbaugh is your head coach for years to come. I can't even comprehend it.
In the mentions on social media. And I mean, it made all the sense in the world to me too. I understand that he's not like necessarily a plus X's and O's guy or whatever, and that maybe he's more the rah-rah figurehead than a person who has Lamar Jackson at quarterback or a fan base who has Lamar Jackson at quarterback might want your head coach to be to further maximize the football team. But all he needs to do is keep their attention and make sure that they are all moving in the same direction. All he needs to do really is be a galvanizing force and hire smart coordinators. And he has consistently done that over the course of his career. He's a Super Bowl champion. And I understand that they would like to do more winning of consequence with Lamar, but it's not because John Harbaugh's the head coach. I mean, Robert, there's no in-game decision. I mean, no like overwhelming amount of in-game decision-making blunders that he has. I know occasionally he has something from a clock management standpoint that people like to nitpick.
Sure, it's clock management, it's poor challenges, poor timeouts, but like those are the losses I'm willing to take. If that is the worst thing that your head coach does, then I'm willing to eat those. But like it is between Ravens Twitter and Steelers Twitter, who are both trying to usher their incredible coaches off into the ether, when anyone else in the NFL, I would say 75% of the league, would fire their coaches to hire Mike Tomlin. It makes zero sense to me.
It's like the Supermax version of what some of the discussion was around Vrabel, right? Like the messaging to Titans fans, if you fire Mike Vrabel, he gets snapped up immediately. Yeah. Tomlin and Harbaugh is that times a million. Yes. Like they actually will fire their coach to hire this person.
That's crazy. So we've got a lot of good stuff to cover. I know Bert and Lucas did a great job covering things from Nashville that were taking place in owners' meetings, and there was a lot of good stuff to come out of owners' meetings. It's a top-notch event that they put on for obvious reasons, because you got all the billionaires wandering around, and you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward. If you're Raj and the boys, and Roger Goodell did exactly that throughout the course of the week in Palm Beach. And there's a lot of good football information to be gleaned, a lot of good insights and information to be learned about the Titans, and that we did learn about the Titans and their direction. And specifically today, what we're going to go over is Brian Callahan and what makes him the best possible, maybe not the best possible coach to work with Cam Ward, who we're all there, right? Like it's done, it's dusted, it's Cam Ward at number one, provided that they, nothing changes in these 3 weeks to trade the number one overall pick. Like Cam Ward, you are a Titan.
Door feels cracked, but yes.
Those are the only two options. It's either Cam Ward or trade.
So, yeah, there's nothing to indicate that they would do anything else with the number one overall pick other than Cam Ward, and then the slight percentage chance that New York or Cleveland still is desperate enough to make them a Godfather offer for that pick. But right now, Cam Ward is the move. So for all the different things that we're going to talk about today, what uniquely equips Brian Callahan to be able to maximize this quarterback, this rookie quarterback, hypothetically, that he will now be working with in year 2 of his tenure as the Titans head coach? We're going to get into that throughout the course of the day. There's also some crazy free agency stuff with some pass rushers that are pissed on the internet and on sports talk media platforms. We're going to talk about Trey Hendrickson and Micah Parsons coming up next. Will I have enough money when I retire? When should I start to draw from Social Security? If these questions keep you up at night, let me introduce you to the team that's there to keep you on the right track and guide you through it. That's Trajan Wealth, Trajan Wealth. Not just any financial firm. They're your partners in securing your financial future. And they're more than just a fiduciary firm. They're a family-owned, veteran-led team that puts your needs first. Let their decades of experience specializing in retirement planning and wealth management work for you. Trajan Wealth offers free consultations to help you develop your plan and your peace of mind. So call them today at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. watch out. That's how Cowboys fans are feeling at this point in time. Watch out, Jerry. Keep talking about the fact that you don't know any of these players' agents and that you don't care to get to know these players' agents because they just get in the way of you doing good business with your players, even though your players want nothing to do with that, as Micah Parsons was very quick to point out on social media. Welcome back to the show. 615-737-1045 is the number. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the greatest hot chicken in the world. That was the only thing that was missing in Palm Beach. No Hattie B's. But I think that is, as they continue to expand their hot chicken empire, I think one would look good right next to the Breakers. I think that would be delightful.
And we could have tweets like Joe Shane and Mike Borgonzi are huddled over some Hattie B's chicken tenders, not coffee, at owners' meetings.
Joe Shane is wiping his brow profusely.
Joe Shane and Mike Borgonzi are sharing Drinking Buddy beer cheese, dipping their fried pickles into it.
Is that what Mike Tomlin got into during the breakfast when he's sweating profusely?
Was it humid down there? Was it humid?
I love South Florida. I could never live in South Florida because every time you just like walking to the car from the hotel, you look like you just got out of the shower. You're sweating that much, or just the condensation is hovering over everybody. And they allowed way too many people to be in those little tents that they had us doing the coaches' breakfasts in on Monday and Tuesday morning. Just a lot of sweaty media people too. Media people tend to be sweaty individuals.
Yeah. Give me that over the cold any day.
No, absolutely. And like I said, an awesome trip, and we're going to go through a lot of the stuff that came out of that, including Jerry Jones. Now, Jerry Jones is an owner who spoke in owners' meetings. And I know some Titans fans and media, obviously, because we want to talk to these people too, expressing some frustration with Amy Adams Strunk. I don't think anybody laid eyes on her that was an external force in attendance at owners' meetings this weekend. Saw basically everybody else involved with the Titans heads of state and even some of the family members wandering around from meeting to meeting as well. But she was nowhere to be found. And that's fine. Like, I went through the list because Bert brought this up. When's the last time the Ravens owner, Steve Bisciotti, has done independent media? Was it when they were thinking about signing Kaepernick, where he did a press conference?
It was over a decade ago. He used to do a postseason State of the Ravens address when he would sit with then general manager Ozzie Newsome. He would sit with John Harbaugh, and they would go over how the season ended, how they were looking forward. He has not done that since the 2000 teens.
So I went through, and Jerry obviously does media availability, and about, I'd say, half the owners, a little less than half the owners talked this week at owners' meetings. Unsurprisingly, many of them did not, because, again, they don't have to. I saw a lot of New York people down there making a stink about John Mara ducking media for the first time.
Woody Johnson didn't.
No. He
probably should have.
Stuck his head right into the buzzsaw, didn't he? So people are Mara's probably pointing at Woody and saying, look what happened to him. Why would I ever do this again?
I mean, last time John Mara talked, all he talked about was impatience. And that has colored every discussion that we have had about the Giants and the number 3 pick.
Yeah, so owners who spoke at owners' meetings this week: Minnesota, Denver, San Francisco, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Jets, Patriots, Eagles, Chargers, Browns, which was interesting. I'm sure you guys talked about Jimmy and Dee Haslam. And then Cal McNair of the Houston Texans did speak. And then there's about half of the league there that didn't. Green Bay obviously doesn't have a front-facing ownership structure because they are publicly owned. And Chicago is still working out the details of who is going to be their new lead ownership person since Virginia McCaskey passed away here in the past calendar year. But Jerry got out there, didn't he? And Jerry is talking about Micah Parsons and the Micah Parsons contract negotiation. And it is one of the funniest audio pieces that I've ever heard, and I've heard a lot of funny things come out of Jerry Jones's mouth. This is the Dallas Cowboys owner at the Breakers this week.
And are you kidding me? That's just not something that you should worry about. You should be worrying about your ability to make it work, and you should be worried about what the player does. Does he have good enough health? Does he have enough skill to do what you're paying him the money for? The agent is not a factor here, or something to worry about. And I don't know his name.
Jerry, what are you doing? Just so gratuitous at the end. I don't know his name.
Like he hasn't dealt with this agent so many times in his time as the owner of the Cowboys. He went on to say...
The agent, by the way, is David Mulugeta.
Yeah.
Who is,
one of the
Deshaun
best.
Watson's agent and Kevin Byard's agent and Micah Parsons' agent. Like, he's got a lot of high-profile clients league-wide. This is somebody who is very well respected in the business of dealing with NFL franchises. And for Jerry Jones to just be that dismissive, Jerry does a lot of things that are in poor form. That in particular was just a slap in the face. And I thought Mulugeta was very classy in the way that he handled that.
Yeah, and Micah Parsons put out a tweet supporting Mulugeta. Micah Parsons tweeted 2 days ago, David is the best. I will not be doing any deal without David Mulugeta involved. Like anyone with good sense, I hired experts for a reason. There's no one I trust more when it comes to negotiating contracts than David. There will be no back doors in this contract negotiation. Jerry went on to say, I'm the one signing the check. He's the one agreeing to it. So cut out the middleman. Why do we need, unfathomable for him to come out and say that. Not to mention, it makes it look like he's just trying to sidestep the CBA, right? Like this violates the CBA between the NFLPA and the NFL. Like that's not how any of this works. I don't know if Jerry's just lost the plot or if he's doing this intentionally, because the head-scratching comments and moves from Jerry Jones and the Cowboys feels like they've just kind of been on an uptick in the last few years.
We don't want to. I just spilled coffee everywhere.
Oh,
in
my.
here. That was not a great move by me.
It had a lid on it, too.
It did have a lid on it, too. The
How
lid
did you manage to do that?
apparently was not properly fastened. Yes,
Oh,
Ross,
my
come in here and
goodness.
clean up my mess.
Oh, my. Did it get on anything
No,
important?
I think we're okay. Maybe a mouse.
At least we'll say that at a Mike's.
Maybe a mouse. It got on my headphone case, but nothing crazy. It's not like there's not millions of dollars of equipment in here that I could potentially ruin. That's my entire cup of coffee that I just spilled. Anyway, so with everything that Jerry is doing, it seems unfair, and I'm sure there are people of a certain age in the audience that would look at that and say, well, don't do anything that accuses him of aging in ways that are clear and obvious to everybody. And some of the commentary that he's making, yeah, I know, Ross, come on in here. That's really tough. Also, take this coffee away from me before I spill it everywhere else.
So here was Mulugeta's comment. You said Mulugeta was classy about it. He texted Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, saying, I agree with Jerry. It's never been about me. The only person that matters here is Micah. And at the end of the day, our goal for Micah is to be able to do for generations of Parsons what Jerry has done for generations of Jones. What a fantastic response by David
Turns out this
Mulugeta.
guy's really good at this.
Pretty good at handling this type of stuff. Also, Jerry's tried to do this before. Did this with Ezekiel Elliott when he talked about cutting out the middleman, going straight to the source.
That was 19, right?
2019. That's just not how this works.
So from that, and Robert will let me know when we have this interesting conversation from Todd France and a couple of other agents associated with Athletes First. Todd France, if you don't know who he is, he represents Dak Prescott. He represents Derrick Henry. He represents many other high-profile people in the professional athletics world. And they are for some reason, Athletes First has decided that they're going to do a podcast and talk about the negotiation process, which is fascinating. It's fascinating for people who don't get to see all the ins and outs of it. And even if you are familiar with it to an extent, there is a level of detail there that is pretty fascinating to see just how the sausage is made and how your favorite players end up on your favorite teams or don't end up on those favorite teams anymore.
So a little bit of a longer clip here, and we can pull out whenever you guys want to, but I've isolated, it's a 6-minute interview. I've isolated the last 2 minutes of this where they're talking about the final deal they were able to do. So initially they came to them and said, hey, we're going to offer you a 4-year, $100 million deal. $100 million guaranteed, that is. And Dak turned it down because their agent said, no, we're going to get you a better deal. We're going to get you the deal that you deserve. So here are his agents at Athletes First talking about the deal they inevitably ended up signing Dak to in Dallas.
The deal, he's making 126, so an average of $42 million over the first 3. Included in the deal is a no trade clause. They can't trade him without his permission, which gives him a ton of leverage. They cannot put a franchise tag on him ever again. So we had that written in there that you will never put the franchise tag on Dak Prescott ever again. He had to play it out once, and now we are going to preempt you from ever doing that again. On top of that, are you about to say it? And so we got creative with the deadline being as close as it was when we were finalizing the deal. And we said, you know what? We want you to place the tag on him tomorrow, and then we'll agree to the deal an hour after you place the tag on him, because we want to be able to say that Dak Prescott has been tagged twice in his career, and the next time he's tagged in his career, it will be the third time, which triggers a much larger
and it's never been
tag number.
It's never been done in the history of the NFL. So it's essentially a lifelong no tag clause on top of layering it with a no tag clause in the actual deal.
So like it made to be clear, that like having him be tagged made no difference to this deal. But you guys are thinking maybe 6 years down, like maybe he does go to another team, and whatever happens, like he can never be franchised again.
If he is, it's at a third number, which is obviously cost prohibitive and never been done.
And not by the Cowboys, by all 32 teams.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
so
crazy. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, the guarantee, the structure, it was 100% me.
Yep.
The guarantee, the structure, everything about it was a good deal and the right thing. And I think the part that we always talk about is the deal averaged 40, but 42 was over the first 3. And since you can't tag him, the reality was he was going to get a new deal after year 3 at 42 a year on a 4-year deal, as opposed to other quarterbacks that may have done 6-year deals or 10-year deals that obviously didn't pan out compared, side by side.
I mean, it's a fascinating look. There's a longer, about 5.5 minute, right, Bert? 5.5 minute clip that's available. The Athletes First podcast is what they're doing. And Athletes First is a representation group up there with CAA and IMG and all these other people that are representing athletes at the highest levels of sport there. They are essentially talking about the way that they've done deals with Dallas in the past, and Todd France is the lead negotiator on that, is really pulling back the curtain in ways that you don't hear. I mean, I know Drew Rosenhaus has done media stuff before. Drew Rosenhaus, who's now representing Abdul Carter, by the way. He was a very, I don't know if popular is the word that I would use down there this week at the Breakers, but he was a very much sought-after individual, Drew Rosenhaus, for, hey, what, you said this player was going to work out at his pro day, this potential number 1 overall pick in the draft, and then what happened? Drew Rosenhaus was kind of a little under fire, but I'm sure he's used to that in that kind of role. Dallas, though, what are you thinking if you're the Cowboys? I mean, what are you thinking if you're Cowboys fans? Again, I know we've done this segment before, so I hate to be in reruns. I saw somebody in the chat bring up earlier, like every family has a random Cowboys fan in it. Kirby Allen Kirby is ours. Like, what is Kirby thinking if he's listening to that? For the agent who negotiated Dak Prescott's deal, Jerry Jones making the commentary that he's had, and understanding that they don't get it right. They get it right enough. They get it right enough to win 12 games in the regular season, and that's good. I mean, hell, I'd take 12 games in a regular season. Whoops. Got to work myself back from vacation, Bert. Sorry. But I'd take that in a heartbeat. Still, for Cowboys fans, championships are the goal. The expectation even though it's been 30 years since the last championship. They're getting their pants pulled down, and everybody knows it.
Even the trade for Jonathan Mingo, like that gets lost in the shuffle as they gave Dak the deal, and now they're talking to Micah Parsons, and Jerry's putting his foot in his mouth. But to give up a 2025 4th-round pick for a 2nd-round wide receiver that showed next to nothing, a decently productive rookie year on a terrible team in 2023, but showed next to nothing last season in Carolina, caught 12 passes last season, and you give up a 4th-round pick, and he didn't even play a snap for the Cowboys when he arrived in early November. It's just they're doing these head-scratching things. They're saying these head-scratching things that have to provide next to no reassurance for their fan base that any of this is going to get better.
And then on top of that, the head coach that you hire to replace the guy that people have wanted out of there for 2 years is a retread. He was the offensive coordinator for you last year. He wasn't even good at that. And he hasn't been a good offensive coordinator anywhere he's ever been. So, like, you have a bad head coach. You have public negotiating going on with your biggest stars. You're trading high assets for players that aren't going to be able to compete for you. It's like, show me what they have done well this offseason. Show me the A+ that they get on their report card.
Nowhere.
Where is it at?
Other than I'm sure they take care of their players and their players' family. Like I'm sure for like family experience or family, whatever the category on the NFLPA report card is, I'm sure they have high marks in that. But it's a mess. Also, Brian Schottenheimer, is somebody who was one of the more, I don't know that I've ever been around an anonymous Cowboys coach in my life. They're usually some of the most famous people in football, some of the most well-known people in football. He was on my flight from Nashville to Palm Beach, and
yeah, he lives here.
Yeah, that which is something that I learned because Vrabel and him and his wife were sitting back there on the flight down, and Mike introduced me to Brian and his lovely wife, who were on their way to the owners' meetings as well. And he said that he was he had been living in Nashville, but he like very rarely, Lucas. I went to the NFC breakfast just out of curiosity, go talk to LaFleur, who I haven't seen in a while, talk about Malik Willis and things like that, get a couple of different quotes from coaches I don't normally see. That's about as small a media contingent as I can remember having being associated with anything Dallas Cowboys. And it's not like Schottenheimer's a bad guy or a bad quote or anything like that. Like I thought he handled it pretty well. If you caught any of that media availability, he compared drafting players to meeting your daughter's boyfriend for the first time when you're expanding your family, things like that. I thought he was prepared for the moment, but they just like, Cowboys fans have to be thinking, what the hell is our organization doing? And I know Titans fans have had that thought cross their minds a couple of times in the last 3 years. And certainly, I mean, Bengals fans, that's a hell of a way to transition to what the hell is going on in Cincinnati. I get that they got the Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins deals done. Nobody should be praising them as much as they seem to have gotten praised for that, for waiting way too long to extend the player that obviously needed the extension, just like the Cowboys. But then compounded by the fact that their executive vice president, Katie Blackburn, made comments this week on Tuesday at the NFL's league meeting talking about Trey Hendrickson's deal. And this is the quote, courtesy of Kelsey Conway at the Cincinnati Enquirer, talking about Trey Hendrickson, who is trying to renegotiate a deal to stay in Cincinnati or to get the hell out of there because he wants what he's due. Quote, as you're trying to put all these pieces together, this is Blackburn, you have certain limitations eventually. So Hendrickson seemed to feel strongly about it and thought the strength of interest out there was going to be at a certain level. And so we said that it would be okay to at least explore. And so we don't do that all the time. But in this case, we felt like it was the right thing to do, case-by-case basis every time. He's still a Bengal, so we'll see. It's just something that we'll keep working on. And then she went on to say, I think he should be happy at certain rates that he doesn't think he'd be happy at. I think some of it is on him to be happy at some point. And if he's not, that's what holds it up sometimes. It takes him to say yes to something. And also, we have all the respect in the world for him. He's been a great player. We're happy to have him. And so maybe we'll find a way to work something out. We're just going to see where it goes. Can I hear from Trey Hendrickson on the Pat McAfee show yesterday in response to those comments?
First off, yesterday was April Fool's, so I was traded to all 31 teams and had like 100 different contracts. So the one thing I was hoping that was an April Fool's joke was that article, but called my agent, found out it was not, and that was a little disappointing because communication has been poor over the last couple of months. That's something that I hold in high regard. They have not communicated with my agent directly. It's been something that's been a little bit frustrating, but again, this is the business of it. I'm incredibly blessed to be in the NFL. And I'm excited to be a Bengal, right? To have a year, right, that I have, remaining on my contract. We can get into that real quick. Last year and the year before, I've been talking about long-term contract, guaranteed money, things like that. And it was discussed with me in a meeting, which I'm very fortunate to have had with my agent, that we would get something done this year. So that being said, last year, go out and play to the level you have, we'll get it done. That was communicated with me. So that basically, this year is going to get worked on. They also reiterated that at the Combine. So that just kind of clears the air on that. And moving forward, the happiness of my camp, they are more than welcome to call me. I've had my cell phone, same cell phone number since high school. Open line of communication is always open with me and my agent. So if they have anything they'd like to discuss, we've been nothing but willing to listen.
It's just such crap. Not from Hendrickson, from the Bengals.
Well, we don't know what she's talking about in terms of the actual offer, but the wording of it just it kind of reeks, right? He should be happy.
is on him to be happy at some
Yeah.
point. I think he should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy at.
For a guy who's had 17 and a half sacks each of the last 2 seasons. Again, it's what happens when you kick the can on guys down the road, and you kick the can and you kick the can and you kick the can, and they continue to be at the very top of the league in their respective position. Things change along the way. Like, it almost sounds like, without seeing any of the numbers, the Bengals are trying to go about this contract negotiation like it was a year ago or 2 years ago. And no, but this is what you wanted, right? Yeah, that's what I wanted 2 years ago, before I led the league in sacks for back-to-back seasons.
Before the cap went up again, and so my contract demand should go up again, because did you see what Miles is making? It's $40 a year. Again, I have said this my entire career covering the NFL, and it gets more and more clear to me every year. Just because these people running these organizations make a ton of money does not mean that they're smarter than you. And they continue to prove it in ways year after year after year after year. We'll get to your phone calls coming up next. 615-737-1045 is the number. Also, there's a rumor that Tua might be traded. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Good to be back. Lucas and Bert aren't happy to see me, but that's okay. I don't care.
When did we put in the Limp Bizkit cover of Faith by George Michael into the system?
I love that song.
I have no idea. I'm assuming that Buck asked Jackson to pull Faith and did not say that it was George Michael, and he was like, it's got to be Limp Bizkit, right? Can't be this sad-ass song.
What's the cover that, somebody brings up, hey, I love this song, and someone will think of the cover and not the original?
I don't know about that, but I will always play Johnny Cash's Hurt over 9 Inch Nails.
That's
Hurt.
the first thing that came into my mind. And also, I love Limp Bizkit. Why is that surprising?
Nothing's wrong with Limp Bizkit. That's WWE's favorite band.
I Will Always Love You, not a Whitney Houston song. She perfected it, certainly, but that is a Dolly Parton song.
Well, speaking of getting things right or getting things in the way of perfection, the Cowboys have not exactly done that. We're going to talk about this Dolphins rumor that's floating around or was floating around the Breakers Hotel about potentially trading Tua Tagovailoa here in just a moment, too. But your phone calls are welcome. 615-737-1045 is how we do it. Let's start with Harry in Clarksville.
Let's go, guys.
Good.
It's Terry, actually, but it's all right.
What you got?
Talking about the Cowboys. Been a Cowboys fan since about '84, and I figured out what Jerry does. I mean, I don't think nobody else knows, but he hates it when people tell him what to do. If you've noticed, you see TV people saying they need to go out and get this coach. He don't go get them. They need to get this player. He don't go get them. He hates being told what to do. He likes to do everything his way. And that's the reason our team is just, we're going to be an 8-8, 10-7, 8-9 or whatever, 10-7 team every year from now on. He's never going to go out and get a great coach because he won't give them leverage to do what they want to. That's the reason Dion didn't come there. I mean, it's just his way or no way. That's the way it's always going to be, and Cowboys fans might as well just, live with it, I guess.
Thank you for the call, Terry, not Harry in Clarksville.
I think that's part of why, because we all talk about the story of how close the Cowboys were to drafting Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
And I legitimately think the reason Jerry wanted to do it so badly is because everybody else in the building was begging him not to.
Yeah.
Yes, and he ended up not doing it, and they drafted Zach Martin, and that was a pretty damn good pick. But I'm with Terry there. I think that's a big part of it for Jerry Jones.
Yeah, but he gets. So I had forgotten all about that drop.
So that's how we get Jerry Jones to be back into Robert's life, is we just have all the people around him begging him not to do it.
Not to have a part in his...
give him a picture of Robert. This is your illegitimate son.
I don't know. I think there's too much litigation tied up around Jerry and illegitimate children.
Whatever you do,
do
not send this man money.
I don't think... Bert's just going to start... Bert's going to start crank calling the Cowboys facility. Anyway, I get that. But also, Jerry gets to. It's his team. He gets to run it however he wants to run it. Whether it ends up being in the best decision making, it's like Amy, Adam Strunk, or who are some other recently embattled owners, Woody Johnson, or anybody else. I don't know how many owners have a high approval rating, to be honest with you. I think fans just kind of look at them as these figureheads in the sky, and most of them aren't really present or available or relatable or anything like that. So it's easy to have whatever opinion you want to have about them, but at the end of the day, they get to do with their plaything, their NFL team, their toy that they want because they bought it. They paid for it. It's theirs to do with as they please. Some people have minority owners and things like that will have additional influence, but not really. Not at the end of the day.
I mean, Robert, do Ravens fans care a lick that the Ravens owner hardly does any media and is not very front-facing in the public?
It is more of a season ticket holder thing because he used to speak to season ticket holders on a big memo call. Those are the people that are complaining because they want to know why their tickets are being raised and while we're building new expansion inside the stadium, things of that ilk. Not personnel decision-wise. But it is mostly season ticket members and media who are upset, not necessarily fans at large.
Because there was a time when that is what Titans fans adored about Amy Adams-Strunk. Not anonymity per se, because she'd be out and about. She'd be at fan tailgates. She'd show up on the sideline. She'd be there, but you wouldn't really hear from her. You knew she wasn't interjecting into football decisions, and that is what Titans fans loved about Amy, is that she let the football people do football things. She's not getting in the way. She's not drawing the attention to herself. I find that most owners of winning teams are the ones that are doing that. But obviously things have changed around here, not so much with the personnel side of things, but
she doesn't have the team mom. I mean, she may still have team mom vibes or whatever, but like she's not popular with the fan base the way that she was.
Yeah, because they're losing.
Yeah, that's typically how those things go.
I would say all it would take is one home game. If Amy Adams-Strunk goes out there and does a beer bong and does a gargoyle on a keg or does a keg stand, it would take one of those for her to be cool again.
I don't even know what a gargoyle on.
Yeah, I don't know.
You never had a gargoyle?
I don't know what that is.
Oh man, I think that's even tougher.
You're saying gargoyle,
gargoyle,
right?
like
gargle.
the stone statues that are on the edges of buildings. So if you gargoyle,
if you watch the Disney Channel show, they turn into creatures that fly about at night.
Such a good show. Banger. Don't get me started. So a gargoyle is when you will put both your feet on the edge of a keg and you will hold on to the other side of the keg while drinking. So when you're like scrunched up, your body's all like kind of mangled, and you'll be chugging, and then when you get off, it's kind of like an equilibrium shake, like, oh, I've been chugging in the fetal position for 30 seconds now. It's just another variation of a keg stand.
It sounds awful.
Well, when you're in Greenville, USA, North Carolina, in the middle of nowhere, you have to find new ways to drink.
Things to do.
I'm telling you.
Fair enough. There is an article in the Miami Herald from owners' meetings that is interesting as we talk about things that are happening around the league and coming out of NFL owners' meetings this past week in Palm Beach. Omar Kelly, one of the Dolphins beat writers, starts his column by saying there's a trade market for Tua Tagovailoa. This isn't an April Fool's joke. This is a reality in a quarterback-starved NFL. Quote, if they don't want him, we'll gladly take him off their hands, said one NFL coach, speaking on the condition of anonymity, easy for me to say, at NFL owners' meetings. Now, he goes on to say that, make no mistake about this, Tua is not being shopped by the Dolphins. That's not what's happening, not even close. But if he were, the Dolphins likely wouldn't get more for the 5-year starting quarterback than the 2025 second-round pick, selection number 52, that the Seattle Seahawks got from the Pittsburgh Steelers for Pro Bowl receiver DK Metcalf. How is that possible? Is it because of his contract, or is it because of his availability issues? Is that a combination of the two?
They would not get more for Tua than what the Steelers gave for DK. Interesting.
That's kind of crazy to me. Because DK probably went for too much and then got a contract that I think is more than what DK Metcalf actually is. I don't believe DK Metcalf to be a $30 million receiver, but that's fine. He made the money that he's going to make, and that's what the market says that he's got. But Omar goes on to say, if he were available, Tua would likely jump to the front of the line when it comes to available quarterbacks, leapfrogging a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, whose bloated salary, age, and injury history makes it hard for the Atlanta Falcons to move the 159-game starter. How much of this is Giants-related? Becomes the question that immediately jumps into my mind. Because New York, I think that the Titans are going to draft Cam Ward because they have the right, first and foremost, to keep that number 1 overall pick instead of trading it. But everything that you read about the New York Giants and Cam Ward is that they love him and that they would love to get their hands on him. But the thing, of course, stopping them is the two teams that also have a need at quarterback directly drafting in front of them, where they sit third in the draft order. I just think New York, the more that I hear and see and read and all these different things about other NFL teams and quarterback situations, I think New York is getting ready to throw every available resource that they can at their quarterback position. Yeah. I don't think it matters that they have Russell. I don't think it matters that they have Jameis or DeVito or anything else. It didn't matter for Atlanta. I think you brought this up during the commercial break, right? Didn't matter for Atlanta that they paid Kirk Cousins $180 million when they sat his ass on the bench for Michael Penix, who they picked 8th overall. Teams are going to do whatever they can to maximize the most important position in sports, and I don't think the Giants are done doing stuff yet.
Man, a trade for Tua, that would be a bit of a shockwave if that's something that took place. The thing is, how tied are the Dolphins to Tua? The answer to that question is another question. How tied are they to Mike McDaniel? Because those two feel like they belong together within the Dolphins. Like, I don't think you can have one without the other. Tua did not find success until Mike McDaniel got there. It's the perfect quarterback for his system.
And Mike McDaniel is not the coach that he is with any other quarterback not named Tua, or at least any other quarterback that they've tried when Tua's out.
Right. So do you have enough belief in that system and that pairing with the lack of success late in the season and in the playoffs to be really that tied to Mike McDaniel? Because if you're going to trade away Tua, then at that point, how fixated are you on keeping Mike McDaniel as your head coach?
Greg Cosell, we did the podcast this morning. We talked quarterbacks and specifically Brian Callahan's ability to help develop Cam Ward. That's next.
We only have one more weekend of the NCAA tournament, which means limited time as you're watching the Final Four to get in on this Hattie B's special. 24 jumbo wings for $35. That's right. HattieB.com is where you can order. Also, download the Hattie B's app. You get a free dessert just by doing so. Go ahead and tack on some peach cobbler for everyone to share. 24 jumbo wings for $35 when you're taking in the Final Four on Saturday or the national championship game on Monday. Hattie B's is a family-run restaurant that serves up your favorite Southern food and authentic Nashville hot chicken. You know it's the best around with the best sides. If you're anything like me, the sides are very important. Southern greens, the pimento mac and cheese, the bacon cheese grits, the fried pickles, dipping in the Drinking Buddy beer cheese. You just can't go wrong. Visit any one of their 7 Middle Tennessee locations. By the way, the factory at Franklin open at 7 a.m. for breakfast Friday through Sunday. And download the Hattie B's app today. It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. There was a trade in the NFL this morning as the New England Patriots are sending quarterback Joe Milton and a 7th-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for the Cowboys' compensatory 5th-round pick. The former Vols quarterback enters his 2nd season in the NFL after playing in only 1 game his rookie year. He went 22 of 29 for 241 yards and 2 total touchdowns in the Patriots' win over the Bills in the regular season finale. The Nashville Predators are riding a 4-game losing skid. They'll head to the Dallas Stars tonight, 7 p.m., the puck drop. And the NIT Championship is tonight at Hinkle Fieldhouse, and UT Chattanooga takes on UC Irvine. Tip-off at 8 p.m. on ESPN. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Got a lot of stuff coming out of owners' meetings. A lot of interesting conversations. We've already got a quarterback trade this morning. Congratulations to Joe Milton, the newest member of the Dallas Cowboys, after being drafted by the New England Patriots. And we've got a quarterback situation that we seem like we are on a crash course for. Welcome back, hour number 2. It's good to be back from Palm Beach. I say that tongue-in-cheek a little bit because the weather in Palm Beach was delightful, and the weather here in Middle Tennessee, really in the southeast, is terrifying right now. Hopefully everybody's okay and managed last night's weather events well enough. I understand that we are in store for basically 2 more days of weather with similar implications. So Nashville Severe Weather, I know 3HL does well to have them on, or representatives from Nashville Severe Weather on. They did yesterday to get you ready and weather aware. Please do so again today by following them at Nashville Severe Weather. They saved my life in 2020, as well as so many others of people who dealt with that tornadic experience here in Middle Tennessee. And certainly last night was ominous. Was spooky. Landing the plane, seeing the sky turn basically from the time I got to baggage claim to the time that I got to my car, and then experiencing everything that went down about 2:45 until 5 a.m. last night. Again, hope everybody's safe and well out there.
Yeah,
and
there's huge hat tip to Nashville Severe Weather. Also wanted to give a big hat tip to our neighbors over here in the radio station, 99.7 WTN Super Talk, where they went round the clock last night for weather advisory, letting people in the area know. So big hat tip to them. One of the producers went 8 to 5 a.m. working his butt off over there. So just wanted to say congrats to them as well.
I did tune in briefly to Matt Murphy and Dan Mandis going live. They were on YouTube, too, streaming live on 99.7 WTN's YouTube page. So, yeah, the news never stops. There's flash flooding everywhere today, too, so be careful out there.
And don't drive through it. Don't, I know everybody thinks that their car can make it. Don't be dumb.
I saw somebody do it this morning on the way into work and lost their whole front bumper. Yeah. So no matter how shallow the puddle looks, just try to work your way around it.
You don't know what's waiting for you under those murky waters.
This ain't the Oregon Trail. You don't need to ford them rivers.
Or what's the disease that you get and die from?
Dysentery.
Yeah, always dysentery.
Always dysentery.
Always dysentery.
Got me many a time in my childhood.
I'm pretty sure the
Oregon
two of you regularly experience dysentery with your food choices on a regular basis, expired or not. But that's not what we're here to talk
Stomachs of
about.
iron, baby.
My belly is a cauldron.
So, we feel like we're on a crash course for this quarterback, Cam Ward. Yes, there is still a slight door ajar for a trade to happen in these next 21 days. And we are, in fact, 21 days from the first round of the NFL draft, which means that we are a month away from the install with Greg Cosell, who will fly in here from the Philadelphia area, from the NFL Films headquarters to break down the tape of your new 2025 draft class and free agent acquisitions. For about 250 of you, tickets are available, but running out at 1045thezone.com, especially now that you know, almost without a shred of a doubt, that the Titans are going to draft Cam Ward. We are going to be I am fully prepared. I am making all the preparations for this show to talk about Cam Ward, to spend at least an hour and a half of this 3-hour show talking about Cam Ward and having Cosell break down Cam Ward clips. So if you want to be a part of that, 1045thezone.com is where you go. But then there's Brian Callahan as a figure in all of this. And Kevin Clark, who's going to be on the radio show not next week, but the following week, who's working at ESPN now, doing a great podcast and TV show called This Is Football. He had Brian Callahan on from owners' meetings. And Kevin posed him a good question, which was, all right, so say in a world that you did have a hypothetical rookie quarterback, Brian, given that you have had a rookie quarterback in Joe Burrow before, how would you go about the management of said rookie quarterback? And this is courtesy of This Is Football.
Our goal, even I've probably said it before and at some point, and maybe even to you, is our goal is to make year one in the NFL feel like year three at LSU.
Yeah.
And so that
said in print, though, it's the dying medium. Now we can do it on podcasts.
Yeah, there we go. But I think that's what the difference was, is that we took a lot of feedback on what he did well at LSU. And tried to incorporate as much of that as possible. Now we have a lot of the same things, and so it's more, do you like this concept? Yes, I do. Okay, well, let's just do a lot of that. And that allows you to get off the ground a bit. I think Washington did a great job of that as well.
Yeah, completely agree.
So there's a lot of different things about Brian Callahan that left something to be desired in his first season. And in fact, our guest at the bottom of the hour, Cord Overstreet, famously has a tweet about the Titans coach, which says New Year's resolution, new head coach for the @Titans. So he was clearly displeased with how the first year of Brian Callahan's tenure went, as was, I would say, everybody. Whether you blame Callahan primarily, whether you blame Levis, whether you blame Damey, whomever you're blaming, the Titans were a failure in Brian Callahan's first year. But Brian Callahan is also uniquely equipped to handle something like a rookie quarterback, especially one that he has a significant amount of involvement in selecting. Now, he's not the end-all be-all, right? He doesn't have roster control. That's Chad Brinker. He's not the GM. That's Mike Borgonzi. But they are drafting a quarterback for this coach whose expertise in the position is I would argue, the biggest reason that he got hired. And also he's not, the kind of personality type that his predecessor was. Greg Cosell and I talked about the quarterbacks in the 2025 draft class today on the podcast. The install available wherever you get your podcast. Bert, it's available on the podcast platforms and YouTube.
That is correct.
Lovely. People can check it out there. And Cosell wanted to reemphasize just how important it is from, going back to Joe Montana, to have coaches who are able to assist quarterbacks in trying to maximize their abilities and minimize what it is that they don't do well.
I'm not a quarterback coach per se, and I'm not in the building every day. I just come back to something Dick Vermeil said. He used to come in when I worked with Ron Jaworski for years and years. Coach Vermeil would come in 2-3 times a year and just drop these pearls of wisdom. I learned so much. It's amazing. When you hear coaches talk, they're just different. I mean, they just know so much. When I hear coaches talk, the first thing I think of is God. I feel like I know a lot because I study tape nonstop. But these guys, there's 100 things I don't know, and I wish I did know. That's the way I feel. But I remember Coach Vermeil saying one thing, and we'll see how it plays in Tennessee. It doesn't matter what the public comments are; it matters what they do in the building. But Coach Vermeil would say, if you draft a quarterback number one, the whole point of your entire building, including the janitors, the assistants, the secretary, whatever you want to call anybody in the building, the whole point of the building must be making that guy a great quarterback. That's the whole. Otherwise, you get fired, because that's the whole point. If they draft Cam Ward number one, which, as you said, it seems as if that's pretty much the deal right now. The whole point of the building has to be to make Cam Ward great. It doesn't matter what Brian Callahan or Nick Holtz or Chad Brinker or Mike Borgonzi say publicly. That's irrelevant. But in the building, that's got to be the whole point.
And nobody understands that more viscerally than Brian Callahan. I assume you guys played this comment from him at the owners' meetings breakfast on Monday, where he's talking about the nature of a potential franchise quarterback.
In the breakfast with Brian? Yes.
So just to reiterate, he said of the idea of the price tag for a franchise quarterback. Now, this is a coach, remember, not a GM. He says, we're open to everything at this point. If it's something you feel is beyond the value you ever thought you could get, that's one thing. You also have to look at what a potential quarterback could look like. Those guys, to me, are priceless. A potential franchise quarterback. Those guys, to me, are priceless. That is exactly the kind of way that Brian Callahan has to operate because of the scrutiny that he's coming into 2025 with. It is exactly the way that he's wired because he's a football lifer. This is somebody who played the position in college. I don't know, he wasn't a high-level college quarterback, but he's a quarterback as a collegiate player. Then years of experience as a quality control coach, quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, now head coach with specialization in the quarterback position. And there's reason to believe that the guys on his resume prior to Levis, right? The guys that are always cited. Manning, Carr, Stafford, Burrow. Those are quarterbacks that are good enough that you could probably make the case, yeah, well, they probably would have succeeded regardless of whether Brian Callahan worked with them at some point in his career or not. And that's fair. But they are all huge fans of the work that Brian Callahan did with them to be able to maximize them at very different stages of their career. And I do almost think while Levis is the only real, mark against him as far as the QB resume goes, we can all acknowledge that that's a clear and obvious black mark on Brian Callahan's resume. That's still an important part. There can be learning from failure. Coaches talk about this all the time. Now, eventually you would like for those lessons to come to fruition in ways that translate to winning. But that the experience with Levis, because everything that I understand from them about Levis is that he had no problem operating in the meetings. And practice was not an issue for him. He wasn't maybe the best player in practice or anything like that, but not a problem the way that he was in games. And then when you got to the games, he'd just have these moments, these manic moments that we've talked about at great length, where there's no way that you can predict that or forecast that or prepare for that, really. And you saw the results of that translate into them being the worst team in football because the quarterback simply was a variable that could not be accounted for and that you could not trust by the end of it, and really by 3 games into it. I think that is an important lesson for Brian Callahan and the rest of his coaching staff to learn. And I do believe, even though I was totally fine if they'd have cleared house at the end of this season, I do believe that is a lesson that I think Brian Callahan is more than capable of learning from. And I think that he understands what Cam Ward is. And I go back, Lucas, to the comments that he made with us on the show at the Combine, where he has talked about he is not in the business of sacrificing talent for his scheme. And so that they have the opportunity to draft the most talented quarterback, it's Cam Ward and then everybody else, and implement a scheme that is best suited to the skill set of the quarterback. Whether he's going to be able to do it successfully or not, we have no idea, because Cam Ward has to get here first, and then we have to go through all the rest of the offseason stuff that we will go through before we get to roster cutdowns in a week 1 game against whomever when they announce the schedule in May. But at least somebody who has that level of understanding for a rookie quarterback, maybe he doesn't end up being Kevin O'Connell or Ben Johnson or any of these other people who are now succeeding at a high level. We'll find out what Ben Johnson is as a head coach. But he's at least going to be able to give Cam Ward a chance. And that, on the worst team in football, is a significant thing to already have in your pocket when you're talking about a roster that's utterly bereft of talent still. 615-737-1045 is the number. Dan Lust, the lawyer, is going to join us because we're going to talk about this Jeremy Pruitt case next, yes? I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. All right, listen to me. We have a huge announcement, because I'm sure you've been paying attention to the news and everything that's going on in the world as far as prices go. Well, Two Rivers Ford has a big announcement for you if you're somebody who's been worried about that. They are now offering employee pricing for everyone, for Bert, for Lucas, for me, for you, for everybody within the sound of my voice, employee pricing for everyone at Two Rivers Ford. That means you pay what they pay on almost every new Ford on the lot. And at Two Rivers Ford, what you see is always what you get. They don't do things like add expensive accessories or tack on service packages to increase the price of the vehicles. They don't price gouge at Two Rivers Ford. They are upfront and honest every single time. And now they are offering you their employee pricing. There's no better time to buy American, and there's no better dealership than Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, home of the non-commissioned sales team that puts no pressure on you throughout the course of the car buying process. And now home of employee pricing for everyone. From America, for America, Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What an entrance for Dan Lust, sports attorney. Now, I don't actively root for wrongdoing and legal action in the sports world, but I kind of do because it means that we get to talk to Danny, and it's few and far opportunities between anymore, really, since our daily check-ins with him during the Deshaun Watson experience, that we've had the opportunity to talk to Dan Lust. At Sports Law Lust is where you can follow him. The Conduct Detrimental podcast is where you can follow along with everything else that he is doing. What's happening, Dan?
I think, Buck, these athletes are scared of getting in trouble because they know I'm on the scent. So they've just been on their best behavior recently. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Is that disappointing to you a little bit? Because it's a very specific subject matter that you cover. But I have to imagine, Dan, in the world of name, image, and likeness and the NCAA and things like we're getting ready to talk to you about with the Jeremy Pruitt lawsuit and everything else, that there is subject matter for you guys to sink into on the podcast each and every week.
What's funny? As the podcast has grown and the longer I've spoke to you guys, people tend to pay me to not put my analysis in the air. They say, you know what? We just want to keep you to ourselves. So listen, business is good. I'm not complaining, but we always find stuff to talk about on conduct. But, the billable hours are racking up, which is good. I'm never going to complain about that.
Wait, is that your opening position for us to start paying you when we've been getting away with free legal advice and analysis for, a number of years at this point in time? Have you been keeping bills for us to then hit us over the head with after the fact?
Accurate. That is exactly what's happening. Statute of limitations is alive and well.
Dan Lust here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So, former Vols coach Jeremy Pruitt files this lawsuit against the NCAA seeking $100 million and claims that it conspired with the university, the NCAA did, to make him a, quote, sacrificial lamb. Now, beyond the exorbitant figure that would assume that Jeremy Pruitt had the ability to be paid and compensated like the greatest college football coach in the history of college football, $100 million was the thing that stuck out to me the most. What questions initially came to your mind once you saw the headline, and then we'll dive into the meat of the case itself?
I think the main one, and I always come with some legal terms to make you guys a little bit smarter. There's this concept, right, in the law called ex post facto. It's doing something that was illegal at the time, but then later on is no longer illegal. It's the same thing like we'll talk about with marijuana charges, right? At the time, it was illegal, right? And then some states have gone in and decriminalized marijuana. So that's the biggest issue I was looking for. What ground does Jeremy Pruitt to have? And he's saying that in this day of name, image, and likeness, this is always allowed. That's fantastic, and we support that. But at the time of this case, right, these are uncontested, right? And I think everyone would agree based on the evidence that was found. These are violations that were, found on appeal and sustained on appeal. So that was my biggest question going in. How is Jeremy Pruitt going to get around that? That seems to be the narrative of this lawsuit. And we don't see many people like the Will Wades of the world or whoever else, right, that were penalized in the prior era, but that have lived to fight another day in this era, albeit, 6-year show cause penalty is a big one. But that was my biggest question coming in.
And that's part of the entire discussion for Pruitt's side of things, right, Dan? That they say he will be the last coach ever to get penalized for impermissible benefits to student athletes. Do you believe that's the case?
In our history, people are remembered for certain things, right? Christopher Columbus is remembered for something, right? Martin Luther King is remembered for something. And if Jeremy Pruitt is remembered by being the last coach to be penalized for this, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And I think that's true? Probably, right? I think in this era of the NCAA, I think they could not get away with these type of violations in this world. But that's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes, right, you're the last one standing at the dance.
So what are the implications here for the University of Tennessee? The lawsuit is against the NCAA. Obviously, UT is named. The allegation is that they conspired with the NCAA to make him a sacrificial lamb, which, isn't entirely untrue. There's a lot of context around it. But overall, what are the implications for the university in your mind?
Yeah, so let's unpack the allegations a little bit. It's a conspiracy charge, right? It's that Tennessee worked with the NCAA to, when the NCAA came knocking and Tennessee basically volunteered, let us handle the investigation. It's not so different than the stuff I've talked to you about over the years, guys, with Washington, then Redskins, conducting an investigation against themselves and then slapping themselves on the wrist. In this case, Tennessee as is alleged in the complaint, and I understand this allegation, and I sympathize with Pruitt in the sense, Tennessee is conducting this investigation, and if Tennessee finds that, hey, these violations happened because of Pruitt, and they weren't pre-existing violations that Fulmer, the former AD, obviously former head coach, that he was the cause of, that these allegations happened solely on Pruitt's watch. Well, Pruitt gets in trouble, but then Tennessee is not on the hook for those, I think it's 7-8 figures I think it's an 8-figure, golden parachute that would have been owed to Pruitt had he not been found and guilty of this show cause penalty. So, you ask what the ramifications for Tennessee are, and I obviously understand where your market is. It's do you trust the university? If you're a big-time football coach coming to Tennessee, do you trust the university not to throw you under the bus? And obviously this happened years ago, right? Tennessee is under an entire different administration at this point, entirely different players. But that's the question, right? When push comes to shove, is an agent going to look at Tennessee and say, are they going to have the head coaches back through thick and through thin? To the earlier point I raised, you're under a different administration, right? Phil Fulmer is not there anymore. And that's a lot of who gets the finger pointing in this complaint. So I'm not sure of the long-term ramifications for Tennessee. Obviously, all the boosters and alums and donors are all the same. That's the question. And I think, if you're looking at another, A-level coaching hire, maybe they look back and circle this and say Tennessee did not have Pruitt's back once upon a time. That's the question you're looking at in the big picture.
Dan Lust here with us on 104.5 The Zone. At Sports Law Lust is where you can follow him. Conduct Detrimental is the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. In the complaint, there's also a note about Tennessee's hearing before the NCAA Division I Committee on Infractions going back to April 2023, Dan, as I'm sure you're aware, and that the state of Tennessee and its attorney general sued the NCAA, successfully obtaining a legal ruling that prohibited the NCAA from using its rules to prohibit NIL or inducements of any kind from going to players. Can this be a benefit to Pruitt in his case?
Well, Buck, I'm going to quiz you here. What was that term I told you right when I started? I wanted to teach you a fancy legal term. Tell me you wrote it down, my friend.
Oh, damn it. It was something in Latin, Dan. I got scared of it, and I ran away, and I looked at Lucas with big eyes and said, make sure you make a note of that.
Do I ask if Lucas remembers what this was? He does not. There was a pregnant pause there.
You didn't even have to.
No, I know.
I would have interrupted. I would have ran all over Buck if I knew what it was.
He
and I knew
can't even see us, Lucas, and he smelled our insecurities around the subject matter.
I knew this well. Lucas would have hit the Law and Order button. I'm aware of how you guys handle it. The term, my friends, and the listeners are shouting it out.
I'm going to get down now.
Ex post facto, right? Yes, I agree. The Nico Iamaleava case, right? The whole deal with Spire and the Tennessee Collective. It's a case that I've taught in my classroom now for going on almost, 3 semesters. But yeah, I mean, it's a big case. Tennessee's Attorney General is basically saying you cannot and you should not punish collectives for the payments of players and improper inducements. And it's a case, which you guys well know, set precedent across the country. But it's a little bit too late. Like we all agree, and there's a number of college basketball coaches that were sent to prison, right, for similar type of allegations and being runners. But that's just not the world we live in. And it somewhat shocks the conscience how quickly we moved on from this era. How we wanted to punish, coaches for paying players. Will Wade comes to mind, who's now making his own comeback after, guiding McNace to back-to-back tournaments. But it's just the nature of the beast. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I totally sympathize with Pruitt. It's certainly possible, right, that Tennessee was doing this long before with the $100 handshakes and the McDonald's bags of cash that have come up in folklore. But that Pruitt was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And when you don't perform, and this is a concept that we understand as sports fans, right? If you don't perform and there's millions of dollars owed to you, maybe the university would look the other way if you're guiding a team to, tremendous seasons and top 5 seasons. But that's not what was happening under Pruitt. So, maybe they look the other way. And it's not that that's fair, but that's just the nature of the beast. And again, it doesn't speak to Pruitt's chances in the courtroom. Maybe the evidence and the discovery will find that they cast a blind eye to something that should have been really obvious, and that these violations long preceded Pruitt's tenure there. But we as sports fans understand that. And we haven't brought this up, but obviously this case is brought in Alabama. It's not brought in the state of Tennessee, and maybe he'll find a more favorable jury. Because if this case was brought in Tennessee, I have a hard time finding a Tennessee jury to be any sympathetic to Jeremy Pruitt.
They're all wearing Vols gear, sitting there looking at him while his lawyer makes his case. So part of the lawsuit is that this was happening, like you mentioned, long before Pruitt got there, that he actually revealed some of these transgressions to then athletic director Philip Fulmer, who, according to Pruitt's team, swept it under the rug, so to speak. Is that something in your mind that Jeremy Pruitt would have to prove to get any sort of favorable outcome here, that this was indeed happening before he got there?
To some extent, right? I believe the findings from the NCAA very much pointed the finger at Pruitt, and that's the nature of the investigation, right? Pruitt is saying that he found out the players were getting paid, and as soon as he found out, he went right to Phil Fulmer, and Fulmer said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." But the complaint is somewhat lacking in this next point, right? If Pruitt's aware that this is happening, and it's happening under his watch, did he do enough, right? It's certainly possible, and again, a legal concept. You guys can write this one down. You can use it for later. This concept of unclean hands, right? Pruitt's saying that Tennessee has some blood on their hands as well, right? It's unclean hands, so to speak, like Lady Macbeth back in the day. Lucas knows what I'm talking about with the Lady Macbeth references. But like that Tennessee was guilty too. That Tennessee also has a finger to point at, and Tennessee, has a bias in conducting this investigation. But it doesn't abdicate the responsibility of Jeremy Pruitt. It doesn't make Jeremy Pruitt in this whole, big grand scheme of things not guilty for committing these violations. So that's where I have trouble. And again, these lawyers can prove their case. And it's I read the lawyer statements here. They have an uphill battle to climb in at least the court of public opinion, but the burden is on them, and they have the preponderance of the evidence to prove their case. That Pruitt was not the cause of these allegations. He just happened to be there while these things had long been occurring. And that's the uphill battle. Again, it's a tough case, and it's a tough case for college football fans, but the fact that he's going to be the last coach to be hit with these types of violations, I mean, that doesn't really have any influence on me, and it shouldn't have an influence in the court.
Dan, ask me again what the terminology was. Ask me again.
Okay, I told you two. Do you have both of them?
I have ex post facto and I have unclean hands. Eat it.
Boom, boom, boom.
Dan Lust here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Why he continues to agree to do this radio show after understanding that he is entirely smarter than we are and that we are just grifting upon his intelligence to help to wade our way through the legal proceedings is beyond me. But we're grateful for his presence either way. Dan, how do they come up with the $100 million figure in terms of the damages? Because that's the thing, obviously, that grabs a lot of people's attention. And I wonder who is sitting in the room and how that process actually goes about, because that is an outrageous figure for a coach who was, what was Pruitt, 16 and 19 or something like that?
Yeah, his buyout was $12 million, right? So it's almost 10 times the size of his buyout. But I guess Danny's claiming the salary he would have earned if, I suppose, he became one of the highest paid coaches in college football for a great many years.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. Any number that's in a complaint like that, and I've been on the plaintiff side, I've been on the defense side, and when you're on the plaintiff side, you want to make as high a number as you can. And when you're on the defense side, you can say, okay, I understand how you potentially got there, right? You're not allowed as a plaintiff to demand a frivolous number that has no bearing in common law, reality, facts, whatever. But on the defense side, you'd say that number is entirely speculative. You're going to say that you were going to turn the whole program around. You guys are going to go undefeated the next year and the year after that, and then you're going to get some huge number. So he's alleging essentially that that's the amount he could have made in that 6-year period of time where he's not allowed to work at the NCAA level. And then maybe the coaching contract he could have got that extended beyond that 6-year window, right? If he got a 6-year contract, right, in 2025 that took him to 2031. It's a stretch, right? It's a huge number, but it's an attention-grabbing number that brings this conversation to the airwaves. So I don't fault the plaintiff side for putting that number out. And, if you squint your eyes and you say Pruitt had this, tremendous, he was the hottest, one of the hottest coaching hires when he was at Alabama, and he got to Tennessee. I think if you're the defense side and you're trying to knock that number down, he had 3 years as the head coach of a premier program in the SEC, and he wasn't successful there. So, I'm sure there have been turnarounds in the history of college football to have that type of disgusting records the first 3 years and then have a, great season the fourth year, right? You're the last year with the freshmen that you recruited and now they're seniors. Certainly possible, but, as sports fans, we're all sitting here saying that's very speculative. And that's what I think a jury would come to and say that number is obscene. But, it doesn't mean that Pruitt's wrong on the liability, right? There's liability and there's damages. So he could be right, but I find a really hard path to get that $100 million number, to your guys' point.
ConductDetrimental.com is where you can go for discussions on sports media rights, legal agreements and entertainment, breaking into the industry, and so many other things that Dan Lust and his colleagues are providing you as a resource at Sports Law Lust is where you go. Dan, what's the legal story in sports right now that you haven't gotten an opportunity to talk enough about or that you have found most interesting that you don't think is garnering enough coverage?
Well, in my world, it's getting a lot of coverage, but maybe not in just like the general college sports world. This whole house case that everyone's talking about, right? And everyone keeps saying that athletes are very close to getting the bag from the school, and they're talking about $20 million salary cap for the school. There's a big hearing that's, really in a couple days on April 7th. And a court in California is going to decide if that's going to come into effect or not. Now, you guys know I'm a gambler, right? I'm the executive director of the Conduct Detrimental Resorts World and Casino, and I set lines. I think it's very likely that this thing passes. There's just a lot of momentum behind it. If I had to set the line right, I might put it at like minus 325. But that's not like a crazy number. And if the settlement does not get approved, and the settlement being approved is the $20 million, there's scholarship, numbers. It's a whole system that's going to be put in place. If it doesn't get approved, the college world really gets thrown into chaos. I've seen a lot of contracts that kind of have a fork in the road. Like if it gets approved, X. If it doesn't get approved, Y. So there could be a lot of chaos if on April 7th the judge decides to. We'll use a sports term here, guys, decides to punt this settlement approval, another 2 months down the road, and we get a little bit closer to football season. Right now we're very much in the heart of the basketball transfer portal. It throws a lot of things in flux. So I'm watching it very closely. Maybe it's not the biggest story right now because nothing has happened. But on April 7th, when you guys are on the air that day, you might get news that House passed, right? The House settlement approval passed or didn't pass. And that's going to be very big news one way or the other. You're going to hear a big collective sigh of relief from college administrators if it passes. And if it doesn't, then my phone's going to start buzzing, right? What do we do? When is this going to pass? If it's going to pass, and kind of throwing your hands up in the air. And my week will get very busy if it does not pass. So I think it's a very big story for college sports fans and for lawyers alike.
There he is, a little late on the trigger back there, but that's fine. Dan Lust, sports attorney, always good to come in here and make us smarter. Dan, thank you so much, as always, for the time. We should honestly do this every time you visit with us. You should grill us on the legal terminology that you use, because it's very easy for us to just hear that and then hide behind you and your knowledge while you explain to the audience things that we couldn't possibly wrap our heads around.
And I'll send you Buck's email for those invoices.
I like it, gentlemen. Bill's in the mail.
Always a pleasure. Dan Lust there with us on 104.5 The Zone. Thank you, Danny. All right. So, from legalese to Titans talk, actor Cord Overstreet is going to join us here in studio. He had a tweet on January the 1st about desiring a new Titans head coach. We'll see if he's had time to kind of marinate on that and if the past months have changed his opinion at all as we get ready to see Brian Callahan and company draft Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. That's next. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. Now, for some reason, Cord Overstreet has decided to grace us with his presence and bring up the level of Titans talk around here as we get flash flood notifications from
my phone just went off.
Emergency alert system. Hopefully you guys are all safe and well and avoiding the high water out there and the tornado situations that took place last night. At Cord Overstreet is where you can follow him. Buddy, thanks for stopping by. It's good to finally meet you.
Thanks for having me in here. Great to meet you as well.
So, for the audience, you're of Nashville, so you are a Titans fan. How did you get to this point?
I mean, the Titans, when they came here in, I guess, was it 98? 98. I didn't have a pro team. We just had the Predators, and I was a diehard NFL fan. And when we got a team, I immediately had my parents paint my room into a Adelphia Coliseum stadium. So I had a mural, and it was just like my room just looked like blue and red everywhere. It was. So I've been a diehard since day one.
So this has to hurt you particularly that you're not wearing the blue and red and white Oilers throwbacks this year because she's scared that you're going to keep losing in them.
Oh, those unis are sick. But especially now that we can wear them four games a year. But there's always next year.
I'm curious because before we get into what they're going to do with the number one pick and the current state of the franchise, when you went out to L.A. and you started working on Glee and you're just getting all this work, I mean, that was right there in that sort of spot where the Jeff Fisher era ended, right? And then you're on to Mike Munchak and Ken Wisenhunt. Some tough years there. How hard was it to keep up with your fanhood in that period when the Titans are on at noon Central Time, which is pretty early in L.A., and you're getting a lot of work?
Yeah, my first couple months when I moved out to L.A. was the year Kerry Collins was quarterbacking for us, and we won 10 games in a row. So right when I moved to LA, my fanhood was at an all-time high. But yeah, I mean, after Fisher, it was kind of the head coaching with Munchak and up until we got Vrabel was a little bit hard. But we had some good years in there.
Are you just having to keep up on your phone? Are you getting early call times and just trying to keep up with the score? I'm sure there were some.
Oh no, I was up early in the morning, ready to rock. I don't think I've missed a game even when I was on a plane. I don't think I've missed a game in 20-something years.
That's a different world, man, watching those noon kickoffs on the West Coast.
Oh, yeah.
10 a.m. for those of you doing the math at home. The NFL starts at 10 a.m. out there. So throughout the course of your fandom, you've seen a lot of ebbs and flows, as a lot of NFL fans do, right? This is a cyclical thing, and even if it feels really, really bad when you're the worst team in football, as you are currently coming off a season that you were, you're about 10 years removed from the last time that they did that with Mariota's rookie year. So how do you kind of explain to me, because Lucas is the police of my sports fandom anytime he thinks that I'm disingenuous about it. Explain to me how the hell you keep that faith the way that you do and keep that commitment, because to me, I'm a front runner, Cord. I'd bail at the first sign of opportunity when I see their start to slumping.
Yeah, it's, I think it's hard to go from worst to first. I think, got to give credit to John Robinson, though, for when he was a GM. He was probably one of the best GMs in the NFL at whiffing on the first pick in the draft. You've got Isaiah Wilson, Caleb Farley, Treylon Burks, which Treylon Burks, a fun stat, has half the touchdowns that A.J. Brown has Super Bowl appearances.
That's right.
And that's a little bit heartbreaking. I mean, that's probably will go down as the worst trade in NFL history, which I think everybody can agree with.
The worst trade in NFL history.
Definitely the worst Titans trade.
Yeah, for me. I mean, I definitely cried for a year. Still keeps me up at night.
That game at the Link was tough. I was talking to some Eagles reporters. I just got back from owners meetings yesterday, and I one of my buddies who was covering the Texans for a while, now covering Philadelphia. His first year was 22. He goes, How did they deal with that literal ass whipping that AJ handed out to them?
Man, I don't. Howie is probably I think he's been fleecing the entire NFL since that trade. And I don't know how the Eagles have so many weapons and offensive line, and they just pretty much drafted all Bulldogs for like 2 years, which turned out to be great. But yeah, man, that was a rough one.
Yeah.
But I think that like I look at like the Lions and the Eagles and what they've done with their offensive line, defense, and how many weapons they have, and coaching, that's kind of what model I would take in a draft. Unfortunately, I think like there's a lot of holes to fill that quarterback isn't the fix-all, but I think having a first pick in the draft, I don't think you can pass on it.
Cord Overstreet hanging out in studio with us. You can follow him at Cord Overstreet. So you almost sound resigned at that point, though. Like you because it took a while for a lot of people to just kind of land on, all right, it's going to be Cam Ward. Like, well, whether you want it or not, it seems the direction, all but done and dusted, not yet in stone, but pretty close. Three weeks from today, when the first round will go down, is that Cam Ward is going to be your quarterback, but it sounds like you had some reticence on the front end.
I love Cam Ward. I think he's a baller. I think he's great. I hope he comes in and absolutely crushes it. And I think we've done a lot of work on the offensive line, which will help. But when I look at like our success as a franchise, when we did the Jared Goff trade, how many picks we got back from that? We did, considering the first round whiffs. We got Derrick Henry. We whiffed on Kevin Dodd, but the Amon-Ra St. Brown, we missed him and took Des Fitzpatrick. But we got a lot of really great players late in those drafts for the capital that we got, and I'm not mad at that. We had some pretty good seasons after that. If you can get a haul, I would probably take a haul or just draft Arch Manning now and wait 2 years. But I think Cam's going to be great. I think that you have to take him just based on what he could be.
How much of that is based on your faith or lack thereof in Brian Callahan? Because if you consider that angle of moving back, getting all the capital you can, getting as many swings as possible, building out this roster, somebody's got to play quarterback for this team. And the guys that are in that room right now, it's not looking like anything that's conducive to success. So are you almost going down that path because you want the Titans to hit the reset button on the head coaching position?
I don't want to. I hope that we have a staff to where we can really do some damage and win some really, really good football games. I think it's hard to come in 1 year, turn what we kind of were going through. We got gutted with some of our best players. So I think that's hard to kind of just turn that around. And our receivers were, 30 plus.
Like trying to turn the Titanic after it hit the iceberg already.
Yeah, I don't think that it's all like a coaching thing. I think, we're in recovery for a couple years, but I think there's a lot of help we need that, I think Brian's probably a really qualified coach. Last season I think was frustrating for everybody.
Where did that frustration kind of boil to a point for you? Because there's a lot of different things and a lot of blame to be parsed out, right? I mean, Will Levis is he deserves a good share of that blame, because if you are a quarterback coach with a quarterback who seems fine, who operates the week of practice fine, who operates the meetings fine, and then just major malfunctions once you get to the actual game, it's a difficult evaluation. But also on that side, Cord, because I was comfortable with them clearing house. I thought Rand Carthon in particular got a raw deal as the only one to kind of be left holding the bag, even as I understood that. And I look at Brian Callahan and say, well, I mean, even if he does this well, 6 games, 6 wins would be a triumph with a rookie quarterback and a team that has the construction of the roster and that the Titans do, and that may not be enough to save that man's job.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a lot of talk about him being a quarterback whisperer, and I just look at it as like, is he a quarterback whisperer, or did Joe Burrow just kind of make him look excellent? And Joe Burrow's, zero defense other than, his pass rushing. on the Bengals and put up insane numbers. And he was the number one pick coming out of LSU, and that's the number one pick that you're like, okay, this is a guaranteed number one.
And Callahan's even talked about that. Like, they knew before the Senior Bowl that they were going to take Joe, right?
Yeah. So I don't really think you could even – I think you have to, do it with somebody like a Tommy DeVito, or somebody like that to really be like a quarterback whisperer. But if you have like, if you're working with like Peyton Mannings or Joe Burrows and stuff like that, anybody could, sit back and take credit for that.
As you get ready for this season as a fan, kind of where are your expectations, understanding that this is probably going to be your quarterback and that this franchise is in a unique spot? Because like I said, for me, I mean, the best case scenario is 6 wins or something like that, given the roster deficiencies that they still have. And they can do a lot of work in the draft and all these different things. But kind of where are you right now with your team as we're 3 weeks out? And understanding that quarterback is probably the direction that you're going.
I think with the quarterback going the direction we're going, I would like to see just us get some weapons and build towards something. I don't think, anybody's expecting us to go from, last place to competing for a championship, but I would like to see some dynamic pass rushing, some wideouts, maybe some tight end help, and build the trenches. I mean, because if you put some speedy guys around Sweat and Simmons, that's going to be a problem. But I would just like to see some sort of some really good weapons and like some speed on the outside. Yeah,
and it's something that this team's lacked, right? And we were talking about a draft class that's got a lot of edge rush depth. Wide receivers maybe not quite that plentiful, but there are some players who can help. And I know that we're going to talk at some point about 30 visits with other wide receivers that the Titans are scheduled to have. Cord Overstreet hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Growing up in Nashville as this diehard Titans fan, was there ever a college football fanhood, or was it just always NFL all the way?
Yeah, I mean, I loved UT, and I got really into it right when Peyton was there, and then I've kind of
pretty good timing.
Yeah, great timing, and then T. Martin right after that. Yeah. So I was like a big UT fan, but I didn't go to school anywhere. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, my roommate for like 10 years was Glenn Powell, and he's like a massive Texas fan. So he's gotten me into, I've gone to probably more Texas games than I have UT games in the last 10 years.
He tried to drag you to the other UT.
Yeah. Do you often have debates about the real UT?
I mean, I think it depends on how Tennessee's playing.
So he was actively
There's a lot of rough years there.
Recruit you. He's basically recruiting you to be a Texas fan.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn, but I've definitely that's my secondary college team.
So you're doing a show right now on Apple TV called Acapulco, and the 4th season came out last August. Apple TV is doing a ton of amazing stuff right now. It feels like every show they put out is just crushing at the moment. What can you tell us just in summary of somebody who hasn't seen the show, who's looking to binge something new about it, and what it's been like working with Apple TV as a whole?
I mean, Apple's great. Apple is, I love just the stories that they pick, whether it be Ted Lasso or Severance. And our show is it's kind of in that heartwarming Ted Lasso world, but it's half-hour comedy. It's about a guy who, like a billionaire who starts on the streets in Arenal, Mexico, and he basically starts from working as a pool boy at this Mexican resort, and he's telling a story to his nephew on how he has acquired all his wealth. And I played the general manager at the hotel, so I get to, spend 3 months in Mexico every year, and it's such a fun show. But we just finished the 4th season, and I think it comes out this summer. So which is kind of unheard of now, 4 seasons of anything. So just really grateful for that, and it's been a blast.
And congratulations on that, because to your point, I mean, there's so much out there that any sustainability is a huge accomplishment. What's the biggest misconception that people have who consume TV but don't understand how it's made from your perspective?
Oh man, I would say that it has to be on the page, and there's a lot of just so many moving pieces that go into it, that even when we did Glee, it's like we were doing like 3 musical numbers a day. And, that's like 3 full production music videos, to where if we didn't have the team around it and it wasn't like a well-oiled machine, that doesn't happen. So it's almost like everybody has to be the best in their field, whether it be the sound, camera operators, the crew, the grips, to where that can even work. So, as an actor, you get there and you rehearse and you work on your stuff and you try to bring whatever you can. But like, if you don't have all that stuff, it's almost impossible. So I think that that's probably the biggest difference maker.
We're going to put something together before the draft. So if you could do us a favor, a quick exercise here. Could you introduce yourself? Just say, I'm actor Cord Overstreet. And if the Titans do not draft Cam Ward with the number 1 pick, my reaction will be blank.
Why is this so formal?
Gosh.
Why do you make it state your government name?
My social security number is.
There's a lot of things with social security. A lot of people would say that it's fraud. I hope the Titans would take a pass rusher or a quarterback. Get a lot of picks, billions.
Nothing on tariffs? You got nothing on tariffs today?
It's terrific. It's.
Shut up! You've been working on that joke how many times? It's terrific.
It's been a while. It's been a long time coming. Sorry. What's the question again?
Give us your name.
I would much rather him do it as President Donald Trump.
My name is Donald J. Trump, and I would like to say the Cam Ward is probably going to be the number 1 pick. I hope he's a number 1. He might not be, but we've got a lot of picks, a lot of great picks.
That's perfect. So good.
I really just want to see them get pieces that can build towards something. So I think the new GM and I think Mike I think they're gonna do a great job. So I'm all positive about it, but we got a long way to go.
You sound like you're trying to talk yourself into it as much as you're trying to. No, I believe it, but manifest it, baby. It's all good.
I'm going to start a Titans podcast purely, and it's just diehard fan. Whenever we lose, it's cheating. It's the refs.
Yes.
But mark my words. As soon as Sabrina Carpenter starts dating Josh Wiley, the NFL is going to rig this thing to where we're going to the Super Bowl, just like T-Swizzle.
That's right.
Wiley being the most random one to put with the so great.
Tight end,
That's your tight end one at this point.
It's got to be a tight end.
Sorry, Chig, you're missing a boat here. Cord, so great to meet you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, hanging out,
thanks for
talking
having
some
me.
shop with us. Apple TV is where you can check him out. At Cord Overstreet is where you follow him. Coming up next, the final hour, we will get into the last big threats to trade for number 1 overall on Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
I hope it.
We've got the trucks, all the trims, all the towing, all the bells and whistles, and all at Truck Month Savings. Two Rivers Ford is Ford Truck Central.
If you are dealing with ED, there's no reason to freak out about it. That is a natural thing that happens to guys as you age. Your body starts
It is 12:04. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. There was a trade in the NFL this morning. The New England Patriots are sending quarterback Joe Milton and a 7th-round pick to Dallas in exchange for the Cowboys' compensatory 5th. The former Vols quarterback entering his 2nd season after only playing in one game for the Patriots his rookie year, where he went 22 of 29, 241 yards, 2 total scores in the win over the Bills in the regular season finale. The Predators are riding a 4-game losing skid. They head to the Dallas Stars tonight. 7 p.m. the puck drop, and the NIT championship game is tonight at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indy. UT Chattanooga playing UC Irvine. Tip-off at 8 p.m. on ESPN. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Many thanks to Cord Overstreet for stopping by and hanging out. We're going to do a mock draft, but it's an anti-mock draft. It's asking famous people what they would do if the Titans didn't draft Cam Ward at number 1 overall. What kind of sick world are you living in that you would put people in this headspace?
I love when you do this with things that we pre-plan for the show and then act shocked by them when we do them on the air.
If we do the mind, dummy, I got 3 hours a day to do.
If we do, but when it's at my expense, I'm going to call it out. If we were to do a mock draft compilation, it would be the most boring mock draft of all time. But why would we even do that? The Titans select Cam Ward. I guess we could do that. I guess that could be funny in its own way. But I am much more curious at what your reaction would be if it wasn't Cam Ward than who you think the Titans will take. Because at this point, everybody thinks the Titans will take Cam Ward.
The only caveat now is every famous person we ask has to do it in a Donald Trump accent.
Yeah.
They have to impersonate
The precedent has been set.
You ever read the...
It just petered out there. Whenever you just laughing vigorously into the microphone and then you just stopped.
No, because I got he said the president has been set, not the precedent has been set.
Did you actually?
Oh, no, I didn't, but that would have been way better.
That's why I stopped laughing, because I was like,
that would have been way better.
It's not outside the realm of possibility for sure. So we are going to do that with a couple of friends and Titans fans who you will know and who you will enjoy, and then we will put a compilation together. We're also we are in negotiations with the Nashville Zoo about sending...
Is there any movement on this?
No, simply that
okay.
I am now opening negotiations with the Nashville Zoo.
Right, in that he has sent an email that has not received a response.
Oh, my God. I got excited.
I actually haven't even sent the email because I went into the owner's meeting and then I forgot about it.
Come on.
So now I'm opening negotiations with the Nashville Zoo. The negotiations have begun. It is incumbent upon the Nashville Zoo to respond to our demands. There is what kind of cow is this, Robert?
A Highland. It is a Highland cow. Effort his names.
Hamish.
Hamish.
That's such a good name.
Hamish is the name of the cow. He is delightful.
He's a big deal.
He is the Nashville Zoo's version of Moodang. In fact, he is no Moodang. He's Hamish and only Hamish.
He is the dang moo.
Yeah. I hope that sound that you made trailing away from the microphone was you choking. But I would like to send Bert to the Nashville Zoo to be our boots on the ground correspondent to ask potentially Hamish and other animals who they would select with the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. I am saying this again because I forgot to send the email when I said I was going to send the email. So now I'm doing it in front of a microphone to hold myself and everybody else accountable.
Hoping that someone there hears it.
Which is typically how these things work. Turns out a lot of people listen to the radio show, whether that's a good thing or not, as we've alleged that Ross has a drug problem and all these other things that we've made.
Which is illegitimate.
Yes, we should say that on the front end. Reckless speculation, if you will. But people are going to think that's a cop car trailing them. But I would like to send Bert to be our boots on the ground correspondent to interview animals at the Nashville Zoo. And I am willing to pay a price or donate whatever kind of money I need to donate to make this happen because I am so happy to support the Nashville Zoo and everything that they do, especially if they will let us grift off their delightful animals for content.
I did want to figure out what we would call this. I was thinking something, if we were just talking with Hamish, maybe it could be Dr. Moolittle, but I would like to be known as Dr. Zoolittle because I will be interviewing the animals and I will be transcribing their thoughts so Titans fans can understand how the zoo feels about their potential number 1 overall pick.
You know, that was my first exposure to Eddie Murphy.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Was that movie? Yeah, as a kid. I mean, obviously, I have had a lifetime of watching Eddie Murphy on old SNL and his old stand-up and all his great movies and Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America and all these things. But my first movie that I ever watched, it came out, I was like 3 years old, was Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy in it.
Somebody let me watch Coming to America when I was like 5, and it's a delightful movie. And I would very much like to have that be our future, that should be the Eddie Murphy, right? If you had to pick one Eddie Murphy film to indoctrinate people with, I feel like Coming to America is a pretty good one.
Yeah, Coming to America's great. Beverly Hills Cop's great. I just watched Vampire in Brooklyn with Cheyenne last night. Also great.
I mean, Nutty Professor is, kind of, it sums up a lot of Eddie Murphy, too, and just what he was so good at.
Anything but Norbert.
No, stop it.
Norbit
Stop it.
was a worse version of the Nutty Professor, but it has its place.
No.
Terrible.
Who's been eating on my turkey ass? It is an exceptional movie. Anyone who hates on Norbit has not watched it. You need to go watch it. Dude,
I saw it in theaters.
I saw it in theaters.
Stop. Okay, that's not like a daggum Quentin Tarantino. Gotta watch it on the big screen. Norbit is a movie that you watch in a humid, maybe smoky living room with your buddies and laugh your butt off. That is the movie that Norbit is.
Also, if you're trying to introduce your kids to Eddie Murphy, Daddy Daycare. Good movie.
I don't think I ever saw it.
Very good.
Daddy Daycare is the first time I was introduced to what is the Glenn Campbell song? Dadgummit, I'm blanking. Glenn Campbell, walking the streets alone, singing the same old song. And they're singing it to the kids. That was the first time I got introduced to that song.
Well, we were supposed to talk here about the biggest threat to still trade for the Titans' number 1 overall pick.
Rhinestone Cowboy.
Rhinestone Cowboy. Bow, bow.
All right, I would like to come back with Rhinestone Cowboy as we talk about what we said we were going to talk about, and also Brian Callahan on developing Cam Ward, potentially coming up next.
Big weekend of sports coming up. Obviously, the Final Four will be on throughout the course of Saturday evening. Nashville Soccer Club in action Saturday afternoon. I'm here to tell you about Music City's coolest new spot. It's Fog Street Lawn Club. It is Nashville's premier soccer pub, your go-to spot to watch Nashville SC. They kick off at 1:30 Saturday at Charlotte. Go watch the game with fans of the Boys in Gold. They're also open early, even for the 6 a.m. kickoffs for Premier League action. But no matter the sport, go check out the Final Four there this weekend. Fog Street Lawn Club. Make sure you won't miss a moment. All the space, all the TVs that you need. And the best part is you can spend the whole day there. You will never get bored. Check out the rooftop with the most picture-perfect view of downtown Nashville on a rooftop you can find in Music City. Trust me, you got to go to find out. Play British-style lawn bowling or cornhole on the rooftop for free, or head next door. Challenge your friends to some axe throwing at Bad Axe. You will never run out of things to do. Fog Street Lawn Club also offers an awesome menu of British pub-style food and a large drink selection. They've got happy hour going on Monday through Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. And go check them out at Fog Street Lawn Club.
Oh, it's a banger. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's hot chicken. We are going to talk football again, I promise. But I was howling with laughter because the studio door opened not 30 seconds ago, and Lucas Panzica, with a cup of coffee and a mug that I believe he stole from the break room somewhere. I don't know where you got an actual mug to put your coffee in, comes limping in with his banged up ankle from rec league soccer, as if he's been in a war or something like that, as if he's Forrest Gump, that something jumped up and bit him in the butt while he's fighting in Vietnam or something like that. You are so dramatic.
This is new territory for me, all right?
Athleticism? Clearly.
No, I never got hurt as a kid. I play in sports, climbing trees, doing dumb stuff that kids do outside. Like, I said this yesterday, knock on wood, have never broken a bone. I never had any serious injury. This is the most serious injury doing any sort of sport that I've ever had, all right? And I'm here. I feel like this would rule you out for a month, this injury.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about not coming in today.
Yeah, that's right. You'd be bedridden. You'd have Grace just bringing you cups of tea, and you'd be on your couch, and you wouldn't be able to move because your ankle hurts so bad.
Oh, please. Please act like I'm the one who would be the most dramatic. The way that he limped, Robert, it's as if he blew his Achilles out or something like that. It's one of the most overemphasized limps I've ever seen in my life. He wants people to ask him what he did, right? He wants people to be like, "Oh my God, what happened? Are you okay?
Oh, did you notice this?
Are you well?"
I'm so embarrassed.
I did it. And he probably makes up a different story every time somebody asks him, like he's doing something way cooler than he actually was, which is just getting hurt in the middle of rec league soccer. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
It hurts.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. F&M Bank Chat also at your disposal. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. People are accusing you on YouTube of getting old, which I'm enjoying.
29.
Yeah, and going on 75 with that limp you've got there. But Brian Callahan, 40 going on 75 after his first year with the Titans. Did you guys talk about his picture at the owners' meeting?
No, but I heard, I think, 3HL talking about it, saying he looked like a
hostage.
A hostage situation.
He looked like a hostage. And it's made worse because Vrabel is standing over his shoulder, just grinning the biggest smile that you've ever seen. I saw somebody make a joke on Twitter to the effect of, when you have to hang out with your girlfriend's ex, that's the face that Brian Callahan was making while seated in front of a standing Mike Vrabel, which was pretty funny. But it does take a toll. I think Shanahan has gone viral this week for how much older he looks after 8 years of coaching the 49ers. And 8 years a long time.
Which, again, is why it is remarkable. Robert and I talked about this, I think, on Monday, that John Harbaugh looks the way he looks.
Oh, he looks incredible.
He looks fantastic for his age. He looks 10 years younger than his his younger brother.
Well, Jim's, it's the glasses. It's the glasses that make him look that old. By the way, was around him all weekend. He is hilarious. A hilarious human being, Jim Harbaugh. Thinking about Callahan and thinking about the things that they have to get done here, a lot of conversation now turns to, okay, quarterback expert, now you're going to get the quarterback, right? Whether it's the exact quarterback that you wanted or not, here is the number one overall pick at quarterback, likely coming to you in your second year where you're coming in on the hot seat as an embattled head coach. And my position has been, I still think that depending on the size of the trade package, that the trade is the thing that would have made the most sense. But a deal has to exist to get the trade done. So in the absence of the deal, take the quarterback and don't be the team that's scared to take the quarterback when you've hired quarterback expertise everywhere to try and improve the position. That's almost the approach that you must take when you hire Brian Callahan and are now in the situation that you're in. So for him, he's asked about developing young quarterbacks. Was this at the breakfast or is this with SiriusXM?
This is in an interview with SiriusXM.
Okay, this is courtesy of SiriusXM on Monday at owners' meetings in Palm Beach.
Process is the more people have actually dug into him as a person, as a player, watched the tape, they start to come away with the impression of him that I think what's becoming more consensus is that he's a really, really good player and a really good quarterback, and has some skills that translate. And he's got a work ethic and an intelligence and a personality that's suited to play the position.
Well, that happened to us.
And I think it's happening more and more as the outside world has dove more in on Cam, because he wasn't familiar, right? He's all the way up at Washington State. Played okay. The record was okay. It's not like they were, kicking everybody's butt.
He had entered the East-West Shrine game until Miami swooped in and kind of convinced him to go to Miami.
Yeah, and I think that was the best thing he could have ever done is take one more year of playing quarterback, because I think what you see is the flashes at Washington State, and then you saw it become much more consistent at Miami. Yeah. And I think that's what everyone's starting to see, is that he's really grown over the last year.
So that is Brian Callahan asked on SiriusXM about Cam Ward and about the developing young quarterback that he's been, because he is still a young quarterback and he is still developing. Like, he's not a finished product when he arrives here.
And we've been reminded a lot over this process. He was about to go to the draft last year.
Yes.
And probably be, a day 3 pick?
Likely.
And then Miami kind of swept him out of that, convinced him to play another year, and obviously that's paid off.
So now, with Brian Callahan and hypothetically, more than likely, almost assuredly, Cam Ward, how much better do you feel about the fortunes of your team? Understanding that you still have 7 more picks to make after Cam Ward is selected, right? There's still wide receivers that need to be added. There's still pass rushers that need to be added. Cord Overstreet, who was in here with us a couple of minutes ago, said it correctly. There's no quarterback who's a cure-all. Even Patrick Mahomes is not great enough to overcome the circumstances of it's him versus an entirely better team across the board, as played itself out in the Super Bowl. Quarterbacks cannot cure everything that's wrong with you, but they are a huge step in the right direction to regaining competency and relevancy, provided that they pan out in any kind of meaningful way. So if Cam Ward is drafted here, and they have rebuilt the offensive line, though they still need depth. I know you guys, did you make fun of the audio quality of the Mike Borgonzi interview? I'm sure you did.
Oh, boy, did we.
Yeah, of course. I'm certain.
Who was the child looking for his lost mother in the middle of that interview?
That child had some Ferragamo shoes on at 3 years old that no child that age should have on.
I don't even know what that means.
They're very expensive, very expensive shoes. We were around more wealthy people this week than I think I'll ever see for the rest of my life until the next time I go to owners' meetings.
That's how you know somebody's really got money, because that youngin's going to outgrow them shoes. He's going and
it's like a 3-year-old.
In 6 months, he's going to have a size 4 shoe. Come on, and you're going to have to find somebody else to wear them Ferragamos. I'd squeeze my big toe in them things so quick.
Get that baby some Crocs and just move on.
Those people will throw those shoes away and buy more.
I need to go to their Goodwill.
Oh, the Palm Beach Goodwill?
Oh, I bet that.
I should have told you to hit it up for me.
Unmatched, buddy. I can barely afford to shop at the Palm Beach Goodwill.
Palm Beach Goodwill is selling like $400.
That's where I want to go on vacation.
Oh no, I did that a couple of years ago when I was in college. I went to the not Los Angeles Goodwill, but there's the Beverly Hills Goodwill.
Oh man,
the Beverly Hills Goodwill, because I needed some shoes. I had this was again college. I was broke, and I needed something cost effective, but also needed to look presentable. There was Louboutins, there's Yves Saint Laurent, there's all kinds of great stuff in the Beverly Hills Goodwill. Palm Beach, there is even more money. And not like West Palm, but like Palm Beach, like the island of Palm Beach that we were on. That Goodwill, if there's even a Goodwill allowed on the island, stocked.
I feel like you're just making up words now when you're saying these brands.
Most of them are Italian. How do you not?
Yves Saint Laurent is not Italian.
I don't think so.
I said some of them were.
What was the shoe?
Ferragamo?
That does sound Italian, but I still have never heard of that.
Yeah, just go to the Green Hills Mall one time. Anyway, as you look at the track that they are on with this quarterback, what else needs to happen for Cam Ward to be a success? Because the offensive line is in theory rebuilt, right? We talked to Borgonzi about that, and he didn't quite balk at that, but he was very quick to emphasize, no, we still need depth. Like, we still need guys who can play. Blake Hance, who was another free agent signing, a swing guard / tackle, is going to be in the mix there. Should, God forbid, something happen, as will almost certainly happen, because football, 17 weeks or 17 games, 18 weeks, you're going to have to experience some injury. Fair to expect that your starting offensive line unit in week 1 is not going to be what your starting offensive line looks like at the end of the year. So that is still on the table as an absolute, to me, draft need. They need interior line depth because Cushenberry, TBD. I know Callahan talked about Corey Levin's competency, and that's fine. But Zeitler is 36 and has been hugely available. You don't want to be the team left holding the bag for $9 million a year on Kevin Zeitler if this is the year where his body starts to finally break down.
Yeah. I mean, it's a one-year deal, but I hear what you're saying. You want a little more insurance on the offensive line, which I'm sure they'll address in the draft. And by the way, there are ways to take Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick and still acquire draft capital along the way. Like, Titans could trade out of the top of the second round, right? They could get that third round pick.
I don't want them to.
That they're missing.
I want them to have the best possible chance.
I get it, man. They need starting players. They need starting caliber players. They really do. But they also need draft picks. So that's what you're weighing here. It's like you have a ton of needs on this roster. You also need a quarterback. Like, you're playing this game, and the Titans are in a spot where you don't find yourself in this position very often, right? With the number 1 overall pick, with the chance to take the best quarterback in the draft. So all signs point to taking that quarterback. All right, how else do you fill those needs? And is that best available at the top of the second round? Or is that as many swings as possible in acquiring a third round pick and trading out of the top of the second round the way that, who was it the Titans traded up with to go get Levis? Arizona, right? And the Titans gave them a future third. I mean, there was a third-round pick involved in that trade for the Titans to go up and get Will Levis.
Titans legend Monty Ossenfort also.
That's right.
Meetings this week.
And he was wheeling and dealing in that draft.
No, Monty did it the way that I think that they're trying to do it. When he first got to Arizona, and I didn't have a chance to spend a ton of time with him at the owners' meetings, though we did talk for a little bit. It was good to see him. To kind of pick his brain a little bit on, like, all right, how much did you know going in that you were just going to try and generate as much draft capital as humanly possible? Because Arizona, Steve Keim, right, was the general manager prior to Monty, and he had the DUI incident that I think is what ultimately saw. Actually, I don't think he was fired after that DUI, though. I think he lasted a little longer after the initial. Anyway, so Steve Keim had kind of petered out towards the end of his tenure.
It was a weird ending to his tenure there. There was a bunch of stuff.
There was stuff. But Monty went in there with the express directive or mantra, whatever you want to call it, to say, all right, we're going to take our lumps here for the first year that I'm on the job, but we're going to set ourselves up for as much possible success to reboot the franchise sans quarterback, because they have the quarterback, right?
They had the quarterback.
They had the thing that was most important to figure out, so it gave Monty... Who am I listening to there?
Don't worry about it.
Don't wave me off.
Sounds like somebody just joining the conversation.
Are you new to the show?
Don't worry about it.
Do you not understand that we sink into mistakes?
Ruin the final segment if you let me play it.
Well, I don't want to do that.
But maybe what the Titans would like to do in this draft is closer to what the Texans were able to do in that draft, right? Because they did need a quarterback and a million other things. Now, they had a bigger arsenal to work with, right? They had much more capital to work with to be able to take C.J. Stroud with the number 2 pick and then trade to the number 3 pick and go back-to-back and take the best edge rusher off the board. Like, in a perfect world, the Titans would be equipped to do something like what the Houston Texans did in that 2023 draft. C.J. Stroud hits, Will Anderson hits, and then you're off and running with some other talent that you had acquired previously. But they don't have that. They don't have that luxury right now. The only way to create that many swings, it feels like, is to trade out of the number 1 pick. And then if you do that, you're sacrificing taking the best quarterback available. So it's a tough spot that the Titans are in.
You know what I'm most worried about, though? Is, like, I'm not worried about Cam having the same problems as Levis did. Because, and while I have never had anything but positive experiences with Will Levis, the person, not the quarterback, but the person, right? Will was under a tremendous amount of pressure, as all of them are, to make this thing work. And he professionally, I don't think he personally crumbled, but he professionally crumbled under that pressure. There was pressure in the fact that they were giving up additional draft capital to get him. There was pressure in who he was coached by and how that coach's tenure ended. There was pressure from the fan base that a good percentage of them didn't want him prior to him even being an afterthought on the Tennessee Titans roster as a day 2 pick because of where he played in college. And then everything else that he was not able to manage mentally from the standpoint of the in-game and how he just let those first 3 weeks crater him, because it would crater most people. Cam Ward is a different kind of person because Levis has always had a bit of those eccentricities, and it's eccentricities maybe too strong a word, but has always had that kind of concern. Like, he's just very tightly wound, and that might impact him as far as his performance goes. In fact, I thought it was pretty interesting, Lucas, because I mentioned that I went to the NFC breakfast, not just the AFC breakfast, where the coaches were speaking on Tuesday, and I was over at Sean McVay's table for a little while, and I can't remember who asked him the question about quarterback development, but McVay brought up Liam Cohen specifically, and the work that Liam Cohen, the new Jags coach, the work that Liam Cohen has done with Will Levis and Baker Mayfield and rehabilitating quarterbacks, or getting the best version of quarterbacks who people might not be able to do the same thing with if they don't have the exact demeanor or skill set that is going to allow that quarterback to thrive. The thing that concerns me about Cam Ward is he is going to be viewed as a savior here, a football savior. And they are so far as a roster away from making that a reality that there will be a portion of the fan base that, and maybe this is unavoidable because it's sports, right? He has a bad performance, people are going to crush him. But there's the McNair comparisons, and there's the number 1 overall pick, and there's the stadium in 2027, and all these different things that I just, for his sake, I want to see whomever they take succeed. But him in particular, I think he is going to face a tremendous amount of pressure from the people who are looking at him as, you're the guy, you're the number 1 overall pick. Please, Cam, save us from football hell.
Which is what the Bears fan base was saying, right? To Caleb Williams.
And then he goes out in week 1 and he struggles, right? And he struggles against the Titans defense that's not great. And it takes a special teams disaster and a Will Levis moment for the Bears to escape that. And Caleb Williams, Chicago fans are more in on Caleb Williams than they're not, but he's a number 1 overall pick. And what did he save you from? They were still the worst team in the division last year.
Right. They weren't good last year, but you go into 2025, if you're a Bears fan, feeling like you got a quarterback, right? You go in feeling like you have a quarterback. It's not set in stone. You don't know for sure what Caleb Williams is going to be.
I think for the most part, you're right, but then you look at Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels did something we've literally never seen before.
No,
we cannot do this with every rookie quarterback. But he didn't take his team to the championship game.
No, not that, Lucas, but people are always going to compare them, right? Shador and Cam are going to be inextricably linked, just as Jameis and Mariota were, just as Wentz and Goff, all these things. This is an annual situation that we go through, but it's enough to cause doubt in Bears fans' mind. Oh, did we get it right? Did we get the right one? Not even because he played in the NFC Championship game last year, Jaden Daniels.
It's so rare. It's so rare to know after a rookie year of a quarterback, oh, we nailed this one. Yeah, we got it right. Commanders fans are saying that about RG3, right?
We all
Over
thought
a
Will
decade
Levis
ago.
showed enough in his rookie season to be like, all right, you can line up and play with that guy, right?
That it's not a thing that really happens. I get what you're saying with the pressure that comes with the pick. And please save us, Cam Ward, from this hellscape of quarterback play that has been the Tennessee Titans for the last few years. But the reality is, that might be what the talk will be. The reality is, he doesn't have to be a savior. Cam Ward, all he has to do in 2025 is have us going into 2026 saying, okay, we think we have a quarterback. Right? Like, to me, that's the barometer for Cam Ward, is to provide that beacon of hope going into 2026.
Sure, but that's
say,
nuance.
okay, we think we've got a quarterback.
I don't think people are going to have that degree of nuance about the number 1 overall pick. I think, and that's like, that is the reality. That's inescapable. No matter how much I fear that or how much I don't want that to be the case for a player, some people will say, well, that's what the money's for, or whatever the case may be. That's what you get when you have to live up to those expectations. I want to see them get it right. Not even, because it makes no real difference whether they get it right to me or not, but for the person that they are getting ready to add to this organization. I thought the Tennessee Titans, Marcus Mariota failed here, but I thought the organization failed Marcus way more than he himself failed. They did not address the offensive line situation properly. Ken Wisenhunt got him hurt, or basically, threw him out to the wolves at every given turn in the way that they orchestrated that scheme. And I know Wiz isn't Callahan, and maybe maybe I can't do the analysis that way, but I don't want to see Cam Ward be the next quarterback that an NFL organization churns and burns.
Everything they've done this offseason is with an eye towards avoiding that.
You are cautiously optimistic about that. And he will have to face adversity no matter what the circumstance, good, bad, or indifferent, that he goes through. It's a part of life in the NFL. But for his sake and for, frankly, Titans fans' sake, because I know that they are miserable about what this has been. I want there to be a little bit of a breather, and I think most people will be this way. Let him get his feet under him. Let him get this season. Let him get his feet under him before you assign football savior to the number 1 overall draft pick, and say, well, what's wrong with him if he wins 6 games or 7? I mean, if he won 7 games in his rookie season, I would be convinced that this player is good enough to get them to the heights that they're trying to achieve, even if it looks clunky at times. Because again, do you know what the percentages are on first round quarterbacks who even win a playoff game?
More misses than hits.
45.3% of players drafted in the first round. Of 136 first-round quarterbacks, NFL research has this, only, Jaden Daniels would make it 43. I need to go back and look at the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, to take it a step further, we've talked about the last number 1 overall pick to win a Super Bowl with the team that drafted him number 1 overall was Eric Fisher, the offensive lineman to the Chiefs. The last quarterback to win the Super Bowl with the team that drafted him number 1 was Peyton.
Yeah. 59 quarterbacks out of 136 quarterbacks, including last year's class, drafted in the first round, have won a playoff game.
But you got to take the swing.
62 of them have won a playoff game. 59 of them have been selected to a Pro Bowl.
It's worse to not take the swing and watch him have success elsewhere than it is to take the swing and have to reset if it doesn't work.
I'm totally with you. Just like I said, don't be the team that's hiring quarterbacks expertise everywhere and then scared to draft the quarterback as a result.
Right.
615-737-1045. All right, what do you have back there that you've been stewing on that you didn't want me to spoil by pointing out your mistakes?
The Joe Milton trade not only affects the quarterback market, it also affects how we talk about the quarterback market.
Next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Fun show. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you would like to join in, last call for them. Thanks to Cord Overstreet and Dan Lust for stopping by. So we are going to do this on a weekly basis with famous Nashville people who are also Titans fans. That's the plan here.
I want to gather as many potential hypothetical reactions, how people would react if the Titans did not draft Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick.
Which would be even funnier when we publish that video, because then if they don't take Cam Ward, those we can follow up. We can check in on them. How are you? Are you well? Are you okay? Self-harm watch? What are you giggling about back there?
That's just funny to me. Like isn't that the most us thing ever? We the only thing we've ever tried to pre-produce and do something show-ish, and then it blows up in our face. Wouldn't that just be the most us thing?
Yes, it would be in keeping with this radio show. Absolutely. Speaking of pre-produced things, what is Shady McCoy doing on Fox? What is he doing? You sent me a tweet that apparently happened 2 hours ago, since Joe Milton has been traded from the New England Patriots to the Dallas Cowboys. I haven't heard the audio because Bert's very excited to play it for me. The phrasing on the tweet from the TV show on Fox FS1 called The Facility, quote, Dak Prescott, find a realtor because Joe Milton can play. Can I hear this, please?
To be honest, man, listen, if Dak Prescott has a postseason like he's always had, going to that next year, right? Dak, find a realtor. Because Joe Milton got talent, he can play. And I'll say this, y'all laugh and all that. I've seen other quarterbacks get paid a lot of money and they move on from it. Right?
We've seen it happen.
Okay.
We've seen it happen. Hey, that's breaking news for the Dallas Cowboys. Hey, when we...
Shut up. Shut up.
What? What is he talking about?
I mean, he's just doing a thing, he's doing a first take
Don't you
thing.
come for
that's
his
what it is.
rescue. Please, we've got to cannonball.
You're defending that?
No, you know what he's doing. Like, he's doing
No, I don't know what he's doing.
Yes, he's doing the thing that happens on first take. He's doing what Mel Kiper did when he said the NFL should ban 2 high safety looks. He's doing the thing we see on television every damn day.
I think, and I hate if that is in fact the case, because I don't know. Do you often, we talk in front of microphones for way longer than these people do on a regular basis. Do you often come to the microphone with a disingenuous opinion just to get a rise out of people?
No, but we've got a different situation going on. We're not talking just Cowboys and Yankees almost strictly and just getting out as many opinions as possible and create an uproar, do something. It's not exactly the way we're going about things here.
I feel like Matt Harmon put it the best, better than any of us could put it. He replied to that tweet saying, Dallas craves a backup that inspires debate show talk like this.
Exactly.
Whether they want it or not, they can't help themselves, like moth to a flame. If you missed that, you can watch it on YouTube or check our podcast out. Matt Harmon on the show yesterday talking about wide receiver options for the Titans.
Take a breath.
I mean, Joe Milton is the quintessential get a fan base excited about the talent quarterback, right? I mean, great.
Do we feel that way about Joe Milton? Because I watched that game.
Right. No, we saw Joe Milton play.
I watched that Bills game at the end of the year. And yes, he looked great in that game. But my takeaway from that was not, Dak Prescott find a realtor because Joe Milton can play. My takeaway from that was the Bills defense does not give a single solitary damn about playing defense against Joe Milton today.
I mean, he looked great in the Orange Bowl, right? Against Clemson. He looked fantastic. And then he was adequate the following season. Incredible arm, incredible athlete. We know these things. Also incredible human, an amazing teammate as well. But yeah, come on, with the find a realtor.
You got to feel the same way after he had. Remember, he was awesome in the preseason. Everybody was like, "Oh, look how good Joe Milton is."
He was good in the preseason.
And I feel the exact same way about that Week 18 game that I do about the preseason. Okay.
It was basically a preseason game.
Right.
And Buffalo so fine to let New England play their way out of the number 1 overall pick.
Exactly.
It literally cost them the number 1 pick. Not that they'd be using it on Cam Ward.
No, but they could trade.
They could trade and get a bunch for it.
Get a ton and still have Abdul Carter, and everybody in New England would be happy as a result.
Yeah, no, Giants fans should be more upset with Drew Lock than Patriots fans with Joe Milton for costing the Giants the number 1 pick.
It's probably why he didn't get brought back to that crowded quarterback room.
Well, they couldn't do it because what little fans remain in the stands at MetLife Stadium would have a visceral, violent reaction against Drew Lock for putting them in the situation that they are currently in. Not ignoring completely that their organization put them in that situation far more than Drew Lock did, even though he had kind of the final nail in the coffin.
Oh, that first backflip at Cowboys training camp is going to be glorious.
Oh, I mean,
the reaction.
Giardi texted us about that.
Yeah.
This guy does backflips?
Yes. Tell you, man, it's the funniest image. As a Tennessee fan, after the Joe Milton experience, to see the reaction amongst an NFL fan base and media corps when he launches the football 95 yards and then does a backflip to gasps and wows and oohs and ahs from the people in attendance.
We'll just have to text Jane Slater at the NFL Network and say, give him an orange and then see what he does. All right, some polls.
I feel like we should start doing poll intro mashups, like Rhett doing the Scooby-Doo one, but in the Vito Corleone voice.
Or like
It's
put them
time-
together, like
yeah.
have Corleone have to talk to
With
Scooby-Doo.
Shaggy.
Yeah, it's like
it's time for a poll update, Scoob. Yeah. Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What is your confidence level in Brian Callahan to develop Cam Ward? High, moderate, or low? 54.5%, majority of the audience saying moderate. 23.7 say high, 21.8 say low.
I'd say moderate.
Fair or foul? The Patriots getting a 5th for Joe Milton and a 7th. 61.2% believe it's a fair trade.
I think it's foul.
It is a compensatory pick.
I think it's foul. Dallas can't use that 5th round pick on something else they need.
It's worse to use a 4th on Jonathan Mingo.
Yes.
But no, I get it. Which deal gets done first, Trey Hendrickson or Micah Parsons? 52% believe it'll be Micah Parsons.
It does feel like Micah Parsons because they have no choice. The Bengals, those comments are very perplexing to me, as they were clearly perplexing to Trey Hendrickson as well.
The Cowboys are going to get it done with Micah Parsons, right? Like Jerry,
they have no choice.
Jerry did a similar song and dance with Ezekiel Elliott. Oh, cut out the middleman. The agent's not a factor. And then they got the deal done, made him the highest paid running back.
Yeah, because Jerry pays his guys. Like, at the end of the day, the Cowboys take care of their players financially, whether they should or not, has been debated.
Who will be the higher paid player? Micah?
Oh, yeah.
Like indisputably?
Yes.
Okay.
Micah will probably make more than Myles Garrett, wouldn't he?
Do you think the Cowboys will be the one to pay him? Like, I understand they can lock him up with the franchise tag for 2 to 3 years. No team's ever tagged a player 3 years in a row. But I wonder how disgruntled you could get. How much could you take from Jerry that you would say, yeah, I'm still coming back. I'll still come back for that money.
That's what the money's for. Like Jerry, at the end of the day, it's good for business to have Micah Parsons. And Jerry, maybe it's not what's good for the football team. Like Micah Parsons is obviously good for the football team too, but it's good business to have Micah Parsons jerseys all over AT&T Stadium. And Jerry does what's in the best interest of the Cowboys' business.
Because what would be in the worst interest of the Cowboys would be to have a situation like what happened with the Giants, where your franchise star walks to a team in your division. Now, it would be a long road to walk for him to be a free agent, but he did play at Penn State. He hasn't been secretive about his love for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, my God.
If Micah Parsons ended up on the Eagles, they would, if they have not chased Jerry out yet, they would chase him out for that.
Max Crosby's making $35 million a year, $35.5 million a year. Does Trey Hendrickson equal or exceed that mark?
I think Max Crosby's a better player, but
he's led the league in sacks each of the last 2 seasons.
And Crosby got the deal done before Hendrickson did. So if I'm Hendrickson, my position is no, that's the starting point for the negotiation.
Yeah, look, here are the numbers side by side. Yep. Here you go.
And against Crosby, it's not like he has time to wait, right? He's over 30. This is his last big contract he's going to get. Pay me what I'm worth now, because it's the last time I'm going to be able to come to the table with this much leverage.
For sure. No, Crosby is 27, though. He's still a little bit.
I'm talking about Trey Hendrickson.
Trey Hendrickson
is
older than Crosby.
Yes, he is older than Crosby. What should Robert Walsh and myself get Joseph Bonanno for his wedding? Jackson Williams said
a weird thing for me to tweet from my account.
I
don't know why you did it.
Yeah, don't ask me. Mm-hmm. Jackson Williams said a new pet lizard to replace Zoni, the long-lost Zoni, who
Famously, who Joseph murdered in a printer.
It was very unfortunate. He was riding around on Joseph's shoulder, jumped into the printer as copies were being made, and then every live read that day had an imprint of Zoni.
I don't like to think about that day. Teresa says candlesticks or a nice place setting.
Nah.
No?
I would be more likely to go to
That's one of the more cost-effective things on the registry, I'm sure.
I would be more likely to go to Hot Topic to get his gift than to get him a set of nice candlesticks. I'm more of a Godfather guy. I'm more of a give you an envelope of cash.
What are you going to get him at Hot Topic? A sex toy?
What, they sell like T-shirts.
Don't they sell sex toys at Hot Topic?
Buck was closer than Lucas was.
You're thinking of Spencer's.
Spencer's.
Both of them have them.
Spencer's, that's right.
From experience.
Hot Topic is the sneaker or skater sneakers, right?
It's like the emo store.
Okay.
That's how I think of it.
Don't put people in a box that way. That's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you hanging out. Do it again tomorrow. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will be here. We'll talk some draft with him then. See you then.